Sippers, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Hey, come on in. Come on in. We got something to talk about. Getting ready for get ready for whew, this coming up week, baby. We need to change Diddy's name from Dirty, Dangling, Tootsie Roll, Diddy. AunTeaFee, why you stretching your lips? I can't stretch my lips. We got to change his name, baby. Ooh, I almost lost you. Yeah, we going to have to change his name to Doomed or Busted or, what's another name? I had one before I had to do what I just did. He tried that, y'all. And listen, before I go over deep off into the dumbass Diddy, AunTeaFee, huh? For briefly. And I meant to talk about this earlier, but I just got lost in the day. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just slow moving. I just want to chill, exfoliate, get some things together. But Dolph, what's his name? YOGOTTI, Hernandez Govan, Moneybaggyyo. Didn't y'all remember for my tea sippers? Yeah, no, my Dolph Mo 3 tea sippers. Y'all remember some time ago when they was doing all that divorcing? I told y'all it's all full circle. Whoop, whoop. There she is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there she is. AunTeaFee. Whoop, there she is. Hey, Rage. X-Rage. Thank you. So before I go deep off into this Diddy, I was planning on doing something special for Moneybag, for the Dolph, young Dolph, ADOLPH Thornton. In his trial, part 2 of his trial is coming up. But listen, when they was doing all that divorce, and y'all remember, and I was telling y'all how Moneybaggyyo really wasn't into Angela Simmons. He had been to one of them Diddy parties with Jay-Z. Jay-Z sacrificed his ass. And y'all remember I showed y'all them pictures. Y'all remember that? Because it's all full circle, baby. I've been trying to tell y'all. I couldn't at that time pinpoint exactly who it was because my eye, the good eye in the good ear, was on Jay-Z, remember, for the East Coast, right? And Jay Prince Sr. for the Southern sector, we're closer to the cartels, the same cartels that was suing Diddy. Y'all remember the Cineola. Y'all gonna stop playing with AunTeaFee. Are you? They gonna stop playing with AunTeaFee. Cause see, some of these people are new to the party. Some of us been here. Okay? Do y'all remember when Diddy started divorcing Bread Gang and Big 30 and what is that other one he was tied to? The basketball player. I can't think of the name right now. Y'all remember that? And he started hooking up with the Loaf Boys that West Memphis, Arkansas. Fat, what's his name? YNB, YNS, YBCT, Fat, you know, the little fat chunky cat. Y'all remember that? And y'all remember when Moneybag tried to introduce, tried to slide Fat to, what's his name? I can't, y'all, I'm laughing, I'm tickled, to Diddy. And y'all remember I said, oh, Diddy didn't like him. Y'all remember that? Where my tea sippers at? My regular tea sippers, baby, because I told y'all this a long time ago. Yeah, he took him to Miami. He tried to take him to one of them Diddy parties. YTB Fat was rubbing his hands like, you know, like he was Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Because I said that trafficking stuff. Do y'all remember tea sippers? Moneybag tried to sacrifice that ass, introduced him, break him in, you know. He was going to be, you know, because they his new hitters. Them Fox boys was Bread Gang, Moneybag, new hitters. Remember I told y'all that. Keep that in mind. Yeah, because for some reason, all of a sudden, Moneybag don't want to be part of that Cache 42 no more. He said that, what, Thursday, Friday, last week sometime I saw he was giving up. He was disassociating himself to Cache, that restaurant, yeah, downtown. He don't want whatever he, and did he say anything about that fish and chicken spot that he named after Straight Drop? Yeah, where he was still funneling money to Straight Drop, the shooter, one of the convicted shooters of Dolph. What did he say anything about the Straight Drop restaurant? I know he thought I was preoccupied with Diddy. Study long, you study wrong. Ain't that what they say? Domino. I ain't forgot. Did you remove yourself from the Straight Drop chicken catfish spot? No, okay. You might want to go ahead and remove yourself from that, because you know some shit is finna go down. Yeah, you know what's going down. You don't want no parts of it. So you removed yourself from Cache 42. Now, why was there a shooting last night, late in the midnight hour, when God normally turns things around? Why was there a shooting in Cache after you say you removed yourself? What was that about? Was they coming for you? Do you got a bag on your head, Moneybaggyo? Demario White, do you have a bag on your head since you contributed to the bag that was on Dolph? Now, I know you thought the telling on, what's the stupid Duke now? Yeah, Young Mod was gonna set you free. You just like a Hernandez Covan. You think that you can tell on everybody. Give up, got it, no. And you was just gonna slide your little fine ass through, cause you fine. I ain't no hater. He fine as hell. He fine as hell. And he gonna be fine as hell in jail. I just thought I would keep my eye on it, on the prize for my Dolph fans, because I know they thinking AunTeaFee just done dropped Dolph. Oh, no, I haven't, baby. Because I've been telling y'all it's all full circle. It's all full circle. And if you go into them archives, you will see that Moneybagyo is tied to Diddy as well. He, as well as, what's his name? YOGOTTI, who paid for the hit on YOUNGDOLPH. And old boy has said even when they was trying to back up off the hits, there was a couple of few who wouldn't allow that to go through. Y'all better stay woke, baby. Y'all better stay woke. Okay? Why he let go of that restaurant? And why was there somebody lost their life there last night? Who's strong arming you? MoneybaggyO. Everybody that was around you either getting locked up or shot up. And you, and what's his name? Black youngster. Think y'all gonna be the last one standing. But Moneybag think he is, so you telling on folk on the cool. But I got my eye on you. I just wanted to bring that to my regular tea sippers. Yeah, because that trial is coming up, ain't it? I saw old boy, old man, he said something about Chicago, Dallas, and Memphis. I've been trying to tell y'all it's all full circle, baby. And isn't, yeah, Diddy, he tied to the Sinaloa cartel that got busted, that made deals. Didn't Trump or somebody allow them to come? They trying to send people out of the U.S. Didn't he allow them and their family to come into the U.S. to live? What type of deals going on right in our face? You better stay woke, baby. Like I said. And didn't Elon Musk say that his name was on Epstein's list? Guess what? It's on Diddy's too. That's why Suge saying Trump needs to come in and turn this shit around. If not, Diddy need to tell on everybody. Ain't that what he said? Diddy need to tell on everybody. Didn't I tell y'all? Weinstein tried to get a mistrial. Then comes Saturday, here comes Diddy. Now, asked for a mistrial. But, hold my mule on that. Can y'all hold my mule? Look like some evidence coming this week that's gonna blow that gray dye off Diddy's head. How in the world did he come in all grayed up, chalked up, like he was Paw? Pappy. But his roof, his new growth, black as hell. How that happen? How your new growth dark, but your hair gray? Huh? I thought they say you couldn't get no dye in prison. He is one entitled ass criminal, ain't he? Now, I used to do hair back in the day, and color used to be perms, you know, sodium hydroxide relaxers. Used to be, I could lay that back. Baby, if you was one of the ones who say you can't never get your hair straight, I could get that hair straight. And I love color. Okay? I ain't never in my life seen your hair go from black to gray without no color. Black to damn near white without no color. And I don't know if he didn't think when they say it's a semi-permanent that his new growth wasn't going to reveal that you ain't really gray. How is your new growth dark? Hey, Talmadge. How that happen? So, you got a beautician, a cosmetologist, a stylist. You got some special privileges with them late night visits that you say you need. So y'all been taking advantage of the judge. How your hair gray and your new growth black? Without no color. No peroxide. No bleach. Huh? Somebody whipped that up and did that for you. Yes, sir. Anyway, we got our eye on you, sir, but that's okay. I said all that to say that shit gonna blow back if this evidence come out on you this week from Jane Doe. I sure hope 50 helping her. I sure hope 50 dislike him enough that he tell Jane Doe, get on up there, tell the truth. I got you and my son. Or I got you because I want my son. Because, you know, he had you doing some shit. I don't know. You need some rehabilitation. Yeah, you need some therapy. You gonna need some therapy. Cause rumor has it, he beat that ass up. Say what? Beat that ass up. Recent. Stomped her. Forced her. And they got pictures, evidence. That's the real reason they tried to do this sneaky little mistrial Saturday. Because I kept saying, you didn't object none of this. In that in which you did object, the judge already dismissed that. So why are you asking again? What's coming? Well, I know what's coming now. Y'all ready? Y'all get the lights up, because AunTeaFee ain't playing boo. I could be out and about. I think I look kind of cute today. I think I could have taken a lunch date. What time it? An early dinner date today. So y'all need to bless your AunTeaFee, because I wasn't coming. I got thumbnails and everything, baby. I wasn't coming. Oh, I done got thumbnails. Let me see. Can I change that while we getting ready? Let me see what I'm going to do. I had gave y'all the do signs. Y'all see that? But that ain't what I want. Do I want this one? There she go. There he go looking at her like, you better not. Cause listen, y'all. She had to been coming. She had to know, okay, that she was gonna be taken care of with that 10K, because he was still paying her rent as long as she kept a secret and act like he never forced her. Y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. He not just still paying her rent cause, oh, you my boyfriend, I'm your boyfriend and I love you. No. He told her, I never forced you, right? Yeah. Everything you did, you wanted to do it, right? Yeah, you know we got that contract. Yeah, and if you want your rent to still be paid, you go. So she said, I'm sick of you. She ready to give it up. So hopefully, 50 dislike him enough that he continues to let her stay where she stand. Oh, hell, just get a job. How about that? Do I need that picture? Let's see. Which one do I like? Do I need... Nah, I want him looking at her saying, please don't destroy me like that. How about that, y'all? Y'all ready to go? Let's go. Let's listen. We gon' play around with it. We gonna hear what they saying about what's coming this week. And then we gonna get to the tea. Maybe I need to get to the tea first, just in case it disappears like it did yesterday. I had to find it about Ava and Prince. No, Ava. I hope 50 don't dog her out. I think, well, see, the thing about it is cooking KK. But hey, Carolyn. Hey, y'all, that go cooking with KK. That's my OG. When we used to, I ain't gonna go there. Hey, Precious, I saw you cleaning them what they call food trucks. I was hoping you was cleaning out one for yourself and start your cooking and putting your cooking on the road. I ain't forgot about you, baby girl. Oh, well, that's what's up. That's what's up. Bless you. So, now, but I hope he don't either. And people are thinking that he's just now finding out. That's been out. That's been out about Daphne, Jane Doe, when Lil Rod came up with his accusations. Her name popped up in his paperwork. And so that's when I remember him saying, you mean to tell me you one of his, So hopefully he went on, got all that out then. And I hope his dislike for Diddy is more than his distaste for her. Because people need to understand that being groomed, it's just not a young person's thing. And yeah, a person may have gotten lost into, that life, that celebrity life. But it still don't have nothing to do with being groomed and manipulated and forced into being triple X trafficking. When people tend to fall into their rut, they fall into their rut to be a FOOL, as Big Pressure be saying, for that person. If they gonna be a FOOL for somebody, they intend to be that for that person, not to be used to for some freaky fantasy of yours to be a modern day hooker. Who the hooker? The men are hookers, right? Baby, listen, I can't figure out, cause he pimping the females to be with the men. He desire men more than he do the female. He respect the hookers, the male hookers, more than he respect the gold diggers. Can I say it like that? And if somebody is choosing to be a gold digger, they're going to want to be a gold digger for the guy, not to be manipulated into being intimate with male hookers. You understand? They're going to be a fool. They just want to be a fool for you. That's why they say, I just wanted to be near him. I wanted to be his freak. I wanted to, if I had to take a bubble, not because I don't want to be, I can't say intimate, have a freak off or a uck off with these people I don't know, especially the one who was greasy and funky and standing over me sweating and shit. I just, That would have been enough for me right then. Let's go, y'all. Let's go. That was enough for me, baby. I said, oh, no. Yeah, I'm coming back here. I'm coming in the back. You know, I sit up there all week. I'm coming to the back, baby. Let's go. Let's get this party started. Oh, oh, let's get it started. I had it set up. Y'all come in, hitting the like button now. I don't feel like doing all that stalling and stuff. I told y'all I could have went on an early dinner date.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show. Now let's get to the latest on the federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy.
Can y'all hear that?
A Diddy ex-girlfriend, the latest, using the pseudonym Jane, was back on the stand today.
Can y'all hear that?
She described the drug-fueled sexual parties called hotel nights she endured during her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs.
And these people are killing me that they keep saying that he can't be at two places at one time. Have y'all forgot? Have y'all forgot that Frank Black and Frank White are alias names that he uses for his freak offs and stuff? And there are times that he set it up, or his assistants or KK set it up in more than one location, sometimes for him and sometimes for other male or female celebrities to have a freak off. So they need to stop acting like he can't be at more than one place at one time. I need for somebody to come in and say, yes, you can. If you setting up multiple freak offs. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Pull the video footage. Pull the hotel video footage to see if he checked in and stayed there the whole time and never left. And pull the other hotel location to see if he if he checked in and stayed there the whole time. Now, come on now. Don't make me get technical, boo, because you know I'll get real technical. And if he is setting up freak offs, because this is a business. This is a celebrity business. Didn't they say that he would set him up and leave and be watching it on his iPad? He probably have a whole bunch of people in this satanic group that's watching it at the same time. Pay per view. Okay, so I need for somebody to come on with it and keep it real with the people. Okay, let's go.
Jane says she felt pressure to have sex with other men. She also broke down in sobs as she recalled getting to spend time alone with Combs afterwards. And just yesterday,
and then he ups and leaves. Hold on. Didn't she say he up after she had a foursome? He up and left, was trying to leave, and was gonna leave her there. And then there was other times where she said, you just had me here in the dark while you done went off and you with somebody else. I need for somebody to come on and stop saying you can't be in more than one place at one time. Yes, you can. When you have an enterprise and you're using that name to set up more than one freak off. Do I need to be a counsel? Shit. Let's go.
In the jury's direction during the testimony of a woman who said Combs dangled her over a balcony railing in 2016. During that testimony, it was revealed that Combs was actually in New York during the Bad Boy reunion tour at the time she claimed the incident happened. Joining me to discuss the latest in the Diddy trials is one of the best legal minds in America, as far as I'm concerned. Legal analyst extraordinaire for ABC News. Obviously hosts SportsCenter on ESPN as well. My buddy, the one and only Ryan Smith. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man. Good to talk to you. How you doing?
Let's get right to it. I'm good, man. It's just that it's just crazy to me, all of this Diddy stuff. We just keep hearing more and more stuff. It's hard to listen to be honest with you. But what do you make of the testimony of the witness who says she was dangled over the balcony of her apartment? How incriminating is that against Diddy?
Yeah, Vanna, that's really important for the prosecution's case. Why? Even though she wasn't somebody who said she was assaulted by him sexually, this shows the violent tendencies that the prosecution is saying Diddy has. That this is what women were afraid of. That this is why that he had this threat of violence held over people. Because when you look at it from the prosecution's eyes, if he could dangle somebody off a balcony, imagine what he might have threatened to do to Cassie if she didn't engage in the freak offs, or to Jane with what she's talking about with the hotel nights. Showing that and showing what happened for the prosecution is like saying, this is how dangerous this man is.
When the judge threatened to remove him and exclude him from trial because he thought his facial expressions and what have you were influencing the jury, how big of a deal is that, if it is a big deal at all?
Yeah, I think that's huge. Because if the jury walks in one day and they don't see Diddy there, they wonder why. And they can't necessarily be told why, or the judge will give them an instruction but won't maybe not tell them all the details. But it goes to, if you're on that jury, you're thinking, wait, why is there a change here? And any change, I think, in this case involving Diddy is bad for the defense. So with Diddy, the accusation is that he's nodding to the jury. And here's the thing. When you're a defendant, you cannot interact with the jury. Why? Because that makes it seem like you're trying to influence them in some way.
You know that?
With this power, people know him, they know of him, and if he's looking straight at you, juror number 12, and he's nodding, don't believe that. I'm not saying I know that he did that per se, but when you talk about nodding for judges and for courtroom watchers, that's somebody trying to send an indication to somebody on the jury saying, believe this or don't believe this, which could influence their decision. So in a way, the judge has to clamp down on that immediately.
But damn right, I mean, he got to sit there for weeks. He can't smile, he can't smirk, he can't nod his head. I mean, for weeks at a time. Isn't that an impossible task to expect from a defendant, where you can't have any kind of bodily communication whatsoever, affirming or denying anything? Is that not a bit unreasonable?
It's reasonable to be able to have a reaction to things, but to be turning to the jury and reacting to them is borderline influencing them. And that's the last thing you want. You want these jurors to be able to make any decision they want to make based on the evidence they're hearing, not based on the defendant looking at them, telling them, believe that, don't believe that. The thing here is, Stephen A., we don't know exactly what he was doing in that courtroom. If he's turning and nodding and making indications to them, that's off limits. You can't do that. And before trial, his defense team would have told him, hey, you can't make statements or do things to the jury or have loud outbursts, because they know that the judge will clamp down, because the judge doesn't want the jury being influenced. But having reactions, being upset or being mad or crying or scribbling a note to your lawyer, that kind of stuff is affected. Keep that, though, away from turning to the jury and trying to send an indication to them. And again, we don't know what Diddy was actually doing in that courtroom or what he might have been trying to do, but the judge has to look at that and say, any way in which you're reacting, turning to them, and making a motion is potentially trying to say to them, don't believe this, believe that, and possibly influencing their decision. You can't have that.
My next question is going to be, just as a treat to throw out to Diddy supporters out there, because just like R. Kelly had his supporters, Diddy's got his, and you have a lot of people that's been listening to you and others talk about what's going on during this trial, reporting accurately on what's actually transpiring in the courtroom and in the case itself. It says, damn, everybody's pointing the finger at Diddy. I mean, what about these other witnesses? What are they saying? How did we know they're telling the truth? Et cetera, et cetera. I'll give you the latest example. Diddy's defense team proved that Diddy wasn't there. The defense actually provided receipts and asked the woman if he could be in two places at once they proved that he wasn't even in attendance at the time that she said this ordeal happened with them. And when they asked her that question, she said theoretically. I mean, what does that mean? How incriminating is that against her?
Yeah, that damages her testimony completely. He can't be in two places at once.
He can.
She even said that. Can he be in LA and be in New York at the same time?
Yes.
No. And that kind of opens and shuts the door on her. So that is huge for the defense. That's a big thing
yes,
for the
he
defense.
can.
You have to believe the jurors, whether they think she outright made that up, or they think, hey, your story's got to be dubious, maybe you had your dates different, something doesn't add up here. You never want a witness on the stand saying one thing happened, and then the other team getting up and saying, well, I can prove he was somewhere else. So yes, it's damaging for prosecutors. But here's the thing, she was there to offer testimony about how he uses violence to intimidate people.
No, it's
Other
not no
people have
sexual
offered that evidence.
freak
So for Diddy
case
supporters
if you
out there
paying
who
for
might
no
say,
hooker.
hey, well, this is proof that he was never violent. I don't know if it's proof that he was never violent. I think maybe it's proof that he wasn't violent in the way this person described on that date. But Diddy still has a whole lot of things to push back on to say that he didn't use threats and coercion to get people to do the things he wanted them to do.
Today, the jury heard from Jane is her name, who testified that Combs threatened to stop paying for her apartment if she didn't continue the hotel nights.
Y'all freaky people better come up with something else if y'all paying for SEX.
She continued with the hotel nights. What do you make?
That ain't never been legal.
Break up with her, but she continued with the hotel nights anyway. Does that help his case at all?
It does in
Unless
some
you in
ways,
Vegas.
but it also helps the prosecution. Let me back up for everybody who hears Jane's testimony and starts reading it. What is important for prosecutors to prove here is a RICO conspiracy. That's a pattern that's basically saying, in a nutshell, that Diddy is either assisting in or operating this sort of criminal enterprise, that other people are involved, and it's this pattern of criminal activity. Now, I want people to hang on to the word pattern. We saw Cassie up there for days talking about what he did with her. He started dating her. They start going out. He offers her the recording contract. They start working together. And then he starts engaging her in these freak-offs, according to her, and starts using these threats and coercion, according to her, in terms of, hey, you got to keep doing this or I'm going to take things away. Now we see Jane talking about the same thing. Stephen A., this is why I believe Jane's testimony is some of the most impactful testimony we're going to see in this trial. Because she now is talking about exactly what Cassie was talking about, which makes it a pattern. So I know that people are going to say, well, look, she could have withdrawn herself from the freak-offs. But look at what she's saying as to why. She's saying, well, he started dating me, and then we had this relationship. Then part of the relationship became these other things that I had to do, these hotel nights. And then he would say, well, I'm going to take, according to her, I'm going to take this housing away. I'm going to take these things away. It's the same kind of thing. It's a pattern. And in a way, it requires jurors to look at this and say, these women were in a position where they didn't feel like they had a way out. And Stephen, let me touch on one other thing related to this. I think 20, 30 years ago, we might look at this case and say, well, why didn't someone just leave? Now we tend to look at these cases differently. We look at cases like R. Kelly and we see grooming. We see how people are conditioned into certain behavior and then they start feeling like they can't leave situations. That's the case the prosecution is trying to build here. They're trying to show that Diddy is a person who strings people along, gets them in these relationships, gives them things, and then gets them in a situation that they feel they can't get out of, either by violence or coercion, financially or otherwise, and puts them in this untenable situation.
So is it possible, before I let you get on out of here, that the real thing that's incriminating with him is the age of these ladies at the time he started their relationships with them? I'm guessing that based on what you alluded to in terms of how society was in the past, they would say it was consensual. Why couldn't you just walk away from this situation? And then you bring in the grooming element. Well, if you're somebody in your 30s or your 40s, somebody might not want to hear that. But if you're somebody in your teens and you started dating this gentleman, then obviously you're going to be perceived as being a bit more vulnerable. And as a result, he's going to be the person in a position of power who manipulated that power to take advantage of you. Is that a good way of, basically drawing a synopsis of all of this and really crystallizing this for the viewers out there?
I think it's part of it, but I don't think it's all of it. I think the fact that they were younger women may have made them a little bit more susceptible to his influence. I think his power dynamic plays into part of this.
I agree.
A woman who's older could have also been swept into this power dynamic.
I agree.
And I think the way he conducted himself, at least according to the prosecution. But make no mistake, Stephen A., as you watch these people testify,
come on,
she's talking about he'd take drugs across.
It's a whole bunch of
Miami.
thirsty women out there that get bamboozled by men every day.
Having her, and then her later calling people, escorts.
Every day get bamboozled. Now, they may not be doing no freak off, but they dang sure get bamboozled.
Grooming, I'm talking about his MO, and they're trying to describe how he did this. But I think age, while being a part of it, is not all of it. I think what it is they're trying to describe how he got his hands into them, and then in their mind, put them in a position where they couldn't get out.
A whole bunch of women get bamboozled by men every day.
Drug trafficking case, all of it is all based on him and his associates.
Are we gonna agree, y'all?
That they couldn't
Are
get
we
out
gonna
of.
keep it
And
real?
It's part of that, but I don't think it's all of it.
Last question. We've seen so much and we hear so much, and it just appears to be getting more and more.
Y'all, can we keep it real? Can we agree that females every day get brainwashed or bamboozled by men every day? Every day. You get a whole tour of narcissist, lie, love bomb, just ooh wee. He the best thing. His mouth game is A1. And then next thing you know, he done put that thing on you and you just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Now he done lost his job. He don't want to work. Hell, the car he was driving wasn't his car. It was his ex-woman's. She had put him all out and he kept the car, and you know, he spoiled you in the beginning. And now you finding out that he ain't shit, ain't never been, and you done been bamboozled. Now you stuck. You asking him to leave. Now he want to cuss you out, call you all type of names, tell you, remind you of everything that you told him about your past and your family and everything, trusting and believing in him where he was understanding. Now he throwing that shit up in your face. I mean, are we gonna keep it real? So to be acting like these women are the dumbest things, I'm like, I know some people now, they may not be doing freak offs, but he at home. He the house husband now. She got 2 or 3 jobs. He driving her car. Taking her to work in her car. That type of stuff happens every day. And then you come to find out that he done had somebody in your car and in your house while you at work. Then he make you feel bad because you gonna kick a brother when he down. Then he gonna start going upside your head because you saying, partner, you gotta go. What we doing here? Oh, you gotta go. What they say? Oh, man don't work. He don't eat. You can't eat here. You know what I mean? And now he going upside your head. I ain't trying to be funny, but this is for the people who try to act like only young girls can be pulled off into their web, because that's not true. It's some middle-aged and old hens that get pulled off into them all the time. Now, see, this is just me. I'm not trying to talk about nobody else. People think I'm mean and I'm hard, and baby, listen, I'm just sorry. That's why I don't do them dating app things. Baby, these men lie good, front good, fake good. If you all of that, now let me say this, because I done had a couple of dudes. Baby, I got them red flags down. Pack. Certain things a man say to me, red flag. Tell me that you a good man. You telling me that you a good man. Who co-signed that? Shouldn't somebody be telling me that you a good man instead of you telling me you a good man? If you that good, why you single? For real. I mean, women want good men all the time. If your potentials is that good, you be off the market. Don't tell me you a good man. Let me tell you a good man. But don't you tell me. So that means you fudging your resume. You fudging your resume. You understand? You fudging it. Don't tell me you love hard. Some people need to want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. That means I'm going to have to fight you out. You going to have to what? AunTeaFee. I'm going to have to fight you out. Yeah, I'm going to have to fight you out. That means that you ain't going to go easy. And when I say it's time to go, you ain't going to want to go. Cause you gonna act like you that you just that much in love. So I'm gonna have to fight you out, one way or another, legally or illegally, easy or the hard way. But when I say you gotta go, you gotta go. Either you gonna walk out the door, or they gonna carry you out in the bag. But you getting up out of here. Now y'all do know I've said that before. Cause you know, at one point in my life, baby, I wasn't wrapped too tight. I'm just keeping it real. You do have a choice in the matter. Either you can walk out, or they can carry you out. But you leaving here. Whew, Lord done brought me from a mighty long way. Okay, I'm just saying. So I just want us to be realistic in these situations, because Diddy is something else. You know, typically we'll think, okay, I can put up with some stuff. We can put up with, but we done walked for days to freedom. We can put up with a whole bunch for our man. I'm never gonna act like that ain't true. But we only gonna put up with a lot for our man. Okay? Not for our man to want us to be with other men. No. I don't care what nobody say. We ain't never, a real woman ain't never gonna sign up to be pimped out by our man. And it takes conditioned people a while to realize he really ain't my man, is he? No, baby. He's not your man. That's your imp. And instead of him imping you out for money, he's paying money for hookers to fulfill his fantasy, because he's more into the hookers than he is into you. And I was listening to Tisa the other day, and she was talking about how the hookers really get paid more money than the female, because he want to use their service 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 4 or 5 episodes. So if they getting $2,000 or $3,000 for every episode, that's more than $10,000. Do the math. That's why I say the math. These people who say they work for him, the math ain't mathing. And you won't call it in. He getting out today. He leaving here today. Ooh, and I was young and dumb, baby. I was ignorant. Talking about entitled. Ooh, Lord. Talking about, ooh. I mean, ooh, Lord. It was just my mindset. Ooh, I have never been one to be okay with putting up with a whole bunch of like that. I ain't never, I would leave. Now, I don't be wanting to, but I don't know. I guess I've always had a fairy tale type mindset of what relationships and marriages and stuff should be. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I just don't think that and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm just saying my mindset has always kind of been like that, even with my first boyfriend. I was only going to cry so many times. And then I ain't crying no more. I'm gonna make you cry. And that's when I learned that men can't handle what they ditch out. I learned that early. You can't handle what you do. I said I ain't crying no more. And when I said I wasn't crying no more, I wasn't crying no more. You break this the last time you break up with me. You break up, our next break up, I'm breaking up with you. And when I say I'm done, I'm done. I took on that mentality early. Early. And I learned early that men, ooh-wee, baby, ooh-wee. I learned early. So anyway, let's get on back over here. I just want us females to stop acting like we ain't too far away from that. Now, as far as the tricking part, being, come on, y'all. If we really just be real, there's some females that go into these Crips and Bloods and all these type of gangs, then their initiation be some of the same stuff, right? They don't get jumped in, they get ucked in, right? Right? I mean, I just want us to keep it real while we being so hard on these females. And just saying it's all about money. It was all about, let's just say it was all about money for that one guy. Not to be used to be. He was more gentle, caring about the men than he was with the females. And it also still gives you the texture of trafficking. They are forced to have to be with these men instead of and he's paying for it. Instead of getting paid for the men to be with her. No. And as fine, as pretty, as stacked as these women are, you would think that he would be, it would be the reverse, that these guys would have to pay to be with her. No. Because he really don't like women. He really despised them on the cool. Do y'all understand? He despised them. He has more respect, more regards for the male escorts than he do for her. That's why he said, how dare you do this in front of Peter? Go and apologize to this escort, this male hooker. Go what? You want me to apologize to this funky, sweating, gross-ass hooker, Peter? Cause, huh? Yeah, go in there and apologize. How dare you do that in front of him? He's an escort. And you being disrespectful to the male escort. Because I asked for protection. He smelled like he gray. He's disgusting. Yeah, he has more respect for the escort in which he is paying to punish her down there. Y'all stay woke. Oh, but it's coming out today. I mean, next week, baby. Oh, oh. I guess they got some discovery and got them pictures that's coming out. I wouldn't be surprised. Let me start this so I can read what you say.
For showing Diddy Combs by the day, but that's through the lens of the prosecution? When are we going to start seeing things through the lens of the defense team?
Let's go back a little
I think
bit.
it's going to be at least a week. I think you can expect Jane to be on the stand for another couple days. And when you talk about the we're going to see in this trial, because she now is talking about exactly what Cassie was talking about.
Absolutely.
Which makes it a pattern. So
Let's go back.
Somewhere doing in that courtroom,
Hit the like button,
what he might have been trying to
please.
do, but the judge has to look at that and say, any way in which you are reacting, turning to them, and making a motion is potentially trying to say to them, don't believe this, believe that,
Right.
and possibly influencing their decision. You can't have that.
My next question is going to be, just as a treat to throw out to Diddy supporters out there, because just like R. Kelly had his supporters, Diddy's got his, and you have a lot of people that's been listening to you and others talk about what's going on during this trial, reporting accurately on what's actually transpiring in the courtroom and in the case itself. It says, damn, everybody's
You right,
Diddy.
Maisha. Ain't nobody gonna put
what
up
about
with
these
that.
other witnesses? What are they saying? How did we know they're telling the truth? Et cetera, et cetera. I'll give you the latest example. Diddy's defense team proved that Diddy wasn't there. The defense actually provided receipts and asked the woman if he could be in two places at once they proved that he wasn't even in attendance at the time
They didn't prove that.
this ordeal happened with them. And when they asked her that question, she said theoretically. I mean, what does that mean? How incriminating is that against her?
Yeah, that damages her testimony completely. He can't be in two places at once. And the defense even said
He
be
can.
in LA and be in New York at the same time? No.
Yes.
That kind of opens and shuts the door on her. So that is huge for the defense. That's a big thing for the defense. And you have to believe the jurors, whether they think she outright made that up, or they think, hey, your story's got to be dubious, maybe you had your dates different, something doesn't add up here. You never want a witness on the stand saying one thing happened, and then the other team getting up and saying, well, I can prove he was somewhere else. So yes, it's damaging for prosecutors. But here's the thing, she was there to offer testimony about how he uses violence to intimidate people.
Right.
Other people have offered that evidence. So for Diddy supporters out there who might say, hey, well, this is proof that he was never violent. I don't know if it's proof that he was never violent. I think maybe it's proof that he wasn't violent in the way this person described on that date. But Diddy still has a whole lot of things to push back on to say that he didn't use threats and coercion to get people to do the things he wanted them to do.
Today, the jury heard from Jane is her name, who testified that Combs threatened to stop paying for her apartment if she didn't continue the hotel nights, sleeping with other men for his pleasure. However, it was revealed, like you said, that Combs was going to break up with her, and she continued with the hotel nights. What do you make of that? She's going to break up with her, but she continued with the hotel nights anyway. Does that help his case at all?
It does in some ways, but it also helps the prosecution. Let me back up for everybody who hears Jane's testimony and starts reading it. What is important for prosecutors to prove here is a RICO conspiracy. That's a pattern that's basically saying, in a nutshell, that Diddy is either assisting in or operating this sort of criminal enterprise, that other people are involved, and it's this pattern of criminal activity. Now, I want people to hang on to the word pattern. We saw
Pattern
there for days talking about these 10, what he did with her. He started dating her. They start going out. He offers her the recording contract. They start working together. And then he starts engaging her in these freak-offs, according to her, and starts using these threats and coercion, according to her, in terms of, hey, you got to keep doing this or I'm going to take things away. Now we see Jane talking about the same thing. Stephen A., this is why I believe Jane's testimony is some of the most impactful testimony we're going to see in this trial. Because she now is talking about exactly what Cassie was talking about, which makes it a pattern. So I know that people are going to say, well, look, she could have withdrawn herself from the freak-offs. But look at what she's saying as to why. She's saying, well, he started dating me, and then we had this relationship. Then part of the relationship became these other things that I had to do, these hotel nights. And then he would say, well, I'm going to take, according to her, I'm going to take this housing away. I'm going to take these things away. It's the same kind of thing. It's a pattern. And in a way, it requires jurors to look at this and say, these women were in a position where they didn't feel like they had a way out. And Stephen, let me touch on one other thing related to this. I think 20, 30 years ago, we might look at this case and say, well, why didn't someone just leave? Now we tend to look at these cases differently. We look at cases like R. Kelly and we see grooming.
Facts.
We see how people are conditioned into certain behavior and then they
Facts.
start feeling like they can't leave situations. That's the case the prosecution is trying to build here. They're trying to show that Diddy is a person who strings people along, gets them in these relationships, gives them things, and then gets them in a situation that they feel they can't get out of, either by violence or coercion, financially or otherwise, and puts them in this untenable situation.
So is it possible, before I let you get on out of here, that the real thing that's incriminating with him is the age of these ladies at the time he started their relationships with them? I'm guessing that based on what you alluded to in terms of how society was in the past, they would say it was consensual. Why couldn't you just walk away from this situation? And then you bring in the grooming element. Well, if you're somebody in your 30s or your 40s, somebody might not want to hear that. But if you're somebody in your teens and you started dating this gentleman, then obviously you're going to be perceived as being a bit more vulnerable. And as a result, he's going to be the person in a position of power who manipulated that power to take advantage of you.
Manipulated.
Of, you know, basically drawing a synopsis of all of this and really crystallizing this for the viewers out there?
I think it's part of it, but I don't think it's all of it. I think the fact that they were younger women may have made them a little bit more susceptible to his influence. I think his power dynamic plays into part of this, that a woman who's older could have also been swept into this power dynamic. And I think the way he conducted himself, at least according to the prosecution. But make no mistake, Stephen A., as you watch these people testify, like Jane, when she's talking about he had me take drugs across from LA to Miami. Now they're building the case of drug trafficking. When he talks about having her and then her later calling people, escorts, to come in from different places to do these hotel nights. Now we're talking about the sex trafficking element. What you're seeing here, when I talk about grooming, I'm talking about his MO, and they're trying to describe how he did this. But I think age, while being a part of it, is not all of it. I think what it is they're trying to describe how he got his hands into them, and then in their mind, put them in a position where they couldn't get out. And that's how they're trying to build the RICO case, the sex trafficking case, the drug trafficking case. All of it is all based on him and his associates getting these people in a world that they couldn't get out of. And age is a part of that, but I don't think it's all of it.
Last question. We've seen so much and we hear so much, and it just appears to be getting more and more incriminating for showing Diddy Combs by the day. But that's through the lens of the prosecution. When are we going to start seeing things through the lens of the defense team?
I think it's going to be at least a week. I think you can expect Jane to be on the stand for another couple days. And when you talk about the lens of the defense team, just like we saw with Cassie, we saw Cassie getting grilled on the stand by the defense. We heard about Mia getting grilled on the stand by the defense. It's going to be the same with Jane, because Jane has a lot of text messages going back and forth talking about their relationship. Jane talks about how she, over time, started booking the escorts herself. According to her, that was so she could control, at least know, the men that she would be kind of coerced into engaging in these hotel nights with. The defense is going to turn that, and they're going to say, look, but you're calling these experts. You're saying, are we doing this? And you can't later come back and say it was non-consensual because you were in this relationship with him for 3 years. As you said, Stephen, why didn't she get out? They're going to be questions like that the defense is going to press on, and they're going to press hard because the defense knows what's getting out there. The impression that Sean Diddy Combs controls these people, that he has a whole pattern of doing these things, that he uses all these associates to do these things, and that's the RICO conspiracy. They have to knock that down by essentially hitting on one key point. All of this was consensual, that he strongly denies all of this, and that all of this was what the women wanted to do and wanted to do with him. So the defense is going to get that chance when they cross-examine her. And I would say if that doesn't happen today, it's going to happen early next week, but it's going to be aggressive, it's going to be strong, because that's exactly what they did with Cassie.
Ryan Smith, legal analyst extraordinaire for ABC News, and of course, sports center anchor for ESPN. Appreciate you as always.
Dang, my earpiece just fell.
Talking to you next week. You take care of yourself.
You too, man. Take care.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Hold on. Is this one? Let's see.
All the evidence against P. Diddy, we're talking literal evidence collected during the federal raids.
No, not that one. Hold on. His name's drop. Hold on. This is just recent.
From Kansas City
Hold on.
to the capital city, Washburn University will surprise you.
What do Leonardo DiCaprio, Michael B. Jordan, Justin Bieber, Kanye West, and Jennifer Lopez all have in common? The P. Diddy trial, of course. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. Why is it that the P. Diddy trial has captivated the world? I mean, the allegations are shocking and honestly almost unbelievable. So as far as true crime goes, it would probably be captivating anyway. But I think the real reason why we're all into it is because of the celebrity factor. Celebrities have been name dropped kind of, a lot in all of this. Some who were once super close to Diddy have spoken out, and others have remained noticeably quiet. And that right there is the topic of today's episode of Scandal. Before I go any further, I'm required to give this little bit of a disclaimer. P. Diddy, Sean Combs, 55 years old, now faces multiple charges, 5 in all: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These are federal sex crimes charges, and he's pleaded not guilty to all of them and is innocent until proven guilty. Now let's get to the fun stuff, the celebrities who have and haven't spoken out about P. Diddy. Let's start with kind of a recent one, Justin Bieber. The Bieber-Diddy relationship kind of goes way back. There's actually a now infamous video of them that was posted to Justin Bieber's YouTube in 2009. He was only 15 years old at the time, and it was titled Justin Bieber's 48 Hours with Diddy.
Check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream, and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you wanna do? What you wanna do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go and get some girls.
Shit.
Man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about.
Since all these allegations have come out, it's kind of strange to watch that video. It's just like a new context. And these clips have actually resurfaced since the allegations came to light, since the indictment, amidst this trial. And there have been longtime rumors that Justin Bieber could have been a victim. But he did finally break his silence about all of this last month. Bieber's rep released the statement on May 16th, which was just 4 days after the trial began. And here's what it said. Although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. Now, another celebrity that we've heard from, Kanye West. Are you shocked that he actually voiced support for P. Diddy? Back in February, he tweeted @RealDonaldTrump, "Please free my brother Puff." He also attempted to raise funds for P. Diddy with a Yeezy and Sean John collab. So here's what he tweeted @Yeezy.com. "I'm selling Sean John collaboration that me and my brother spoke about before they locked him up. We splitting the profits 50-50. And here's another tweet about all of this. Yeezy Sean John collab available at Yeezy.com. Now, Kanye was pretty upset when he found out that Diddy couldn't actually collect any of this money from behind bars. So then he kind of changed things up and said, okay, I'm still collecting all the money and I'll give the profits to his son, Justin Combs. Then in March, Kanye releases a song. This is wild to me. This is so crazy. Okay. He released this song called Lonely Roads Still Go to Sunshine, and it just happened to feature a jailhouse recording of P. Diddy. Now, we don't have the rights to it, so we can't play the song for you, but here's kind of a recap of what was said. This is what Diddy says on it. He says, "I want to just thank you so much for just taking care of my kids, man. Ain't nobody reach out to them. Ain't nobody call them." And Kanye replied, "Absolutely. I love you so much, man. You raised me. Even when I ain't know you." Know what I'm saying? Another wild part about all of this. I mean, we know that Kanye supports P. Diddy, so okay, that's fine. And he wants to release a song. Okay, that's fine. This next part is crazy. He features his 11-year-old daughter, Northwest, who he shares with her mother, Kim Kardashian. She's singing on the song, and she's singing the lyrics, "When you see me shining, then you see the light." There's another celebrity who's kind of spoken out in support in a way of P. Diddy, and that's Suge Knight. Law and Crime's own Anjanette Levy actually spoke to him on a different Jailhouse call. I don't think Anjanette made a song with a remix including this, but you can watch the episode on Crime Fix. Suge Knight had to call from jail because he's currently serving time for manslaughter, and here's part of what he said.
Puffy did some things wrong. So do all of us. But we need to learn from it. I don't believe that Kid Cudi was fair. I didn't think it was right that Kid Cudi know that Puffy paid this man to do a song on Cassie. He didn't pay you to have sex with her. So for Puffy to pay this man to do a hit song on Cassie and have sex with her and he love her, naturally he wanna deal with this guy. So Kid Cudi was out of line for even having sex with her.
Was you out of line with having sex with Justin's baby mama?
Stepping in and getting money and marrying her and having kids with her. On the simple fact that looks like he's doing it for the money.
In this interview, Suge said he actually thinks that Diddy should take a stand.
That's the best.
Didn't Puffy have a baby with I'll Be Sure who helped him in the beginning? Baby mama? See, this is what I'm talking about. Don't him and Mistrial, Dr. Dre got baby with the same baby mama? Huh? I'll Be Sure was there in the beginning for Diddy. He sat up there and said in one of their meetings in the studio saying, dang, I wish I had one like that in me. What's her name? Justin baby mama was sitting right there. Yeah. Gone with that stupid stuff. He done paid you. He done put some money on your books. And you don't want him to tell it because they gonna add to your sentence because you was doing the same thing. Bottom line.
Including this, but you can watch the episode on Crime Fix. Suge Knight had to call from jail because he's currently serving time for manslaughter, and here's part of what he said.
Puffy did some things wrong. So do all of us. But we need to learn from it.
No, you need more time
added.
added.
That Kid Cudi was fair. I didn't think it was right that Kid Cudi know that Puffy paid this man to do a song on Cassie. He didn't pay you to have sex with her. So for Puffy to pay this man and do a hit song on Cassie and he have sex with her and he love her, naturally he wanna deal with this guy. So Kid Cudi was out of line for even having sex with her. I think Cassie's husband is out of line for stepping in and getting money and marrying her and having kids with her. On the simple fact that
you're a hypocrite.
Looks like he's doing it for the money.
In this interview, Suge said he actually thinks that Diddy should take the stand.
That's the best thing he can do. Humanize himself. He's not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. Only way you can be perfect is you got to be immortal. And if you're immortal, you're in heaven or hell. I'm not ready to go to heaven, but I will go. But at the same time, in Puffy's situation, why do everyone else get to walk away scot-free and he the only one being... It's a bad thing when you take a father away from his kids.
Why don't he tell on all the people who introduced him to all of that type of stuff?
I'm not into destroying families. I do not understand why we can't take this opportunity. Give Puffy a deal. Give Puffy a situation where put him on the stand. Let him humanize himself. Let him speak up for himself. Let him tell the truth.
Just for the record to clarify, the government did offer P. Diddy a plea deal and he rejected it. We reported on that. And also, it is possible that P. Diddy takes the stand. It's really up to him. It's up to the defendant themselves if they're going to take the stand. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens. But those are a few people who have spoken out about Diddy. But there are a couple of others, notably, who haven't. For instance, Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo, Jenny from the block. She dated P. Diddy for several years, and
Diddy
she was
definitely
even
has a
arrested
type.
while dating him. That's where we get the famous Jennifer Lopez mugshot, because she was arrested during that 1999 New York nightclub shooting that Diddy was eventually charged for and acquitted in the trial. Now, J-Lo, just to specify here, her charges were eventually dropped, but J-Lo is mentioned in Lil Rod's lawsuit. If you recall, he alleges that Diddy forced J-Lo to carry an illegal weapon. So she's associated with him there. There are other potential rumors in other lawsuits that she was nearby. She isn't named in some of them, but the question is, did she know what was going on? What was happening? She was with him for multiple years. Did she witness any of this? What happened? Yet, J-Lo has hardly said anything. Interesting.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be replaced.
Witness any of this? What happened? Yet, J-Lo has hardly said anything. Interesting. Then there's Ashton Kutcher. If you recall, back in the early 2000s, he actually co-hosted a white party with P. Diddy. And those white parties are all over the civil lawsuits as where some things allegedly went down. So Ashton's a co-host. He palled around with P. Diddy in the early 2000s. However, after these allegations came out on the civil side of things, and of course the indictment, haven't heard much from Ashton. There were a couple of rumors, though, that his wife Mila Kunis was hoping to separate them, completely keep them apart from each other, don't speak out about it. Those were just some rumors that we may have reported on Law and Crime specifically. But Ashton, what's going on? Haven't heard from you, bud. It is interesting to talk about who's spoken out, who hasn't when it comes to celebrities. But I want to switch gears now and talk about even more celebrities, specifically the ones who've come up during the trial. Of course, there's Cassie. She is the primary star witness in all of this. She has come up. She even testified for multiple days. But there have been other celebrities we've heard from too, like Don Richard of Danity Kane, one of Diddy's bands, and notably another pretty famous artist, Kid Cudi. He alleges that Diddy blew up his car while he and Cassie were together for a time. And I want to bring in the transcripts about all of this because it's just very interesting. The government asked, can you describe the conversation that you had with Mr. Kid Cudi?
No.
He alleges that Diddy blew up his car while he and Cassie were together for a time.
No.
Oh my God, you guys, come and sit down and shut the door. I know you guys heard Diddy was asking for mistrial, and I know you heard.
Shout out to Tisa Tales.
Brian Steele, Diddy's lawyer, needs to remain himself. Brian Mistrial Steele, stop bringing that Fulton County mess into this good Northeast courthouse. You're not getting a mistrial. However, Diddy is begging for a mistrial. Why? Because Miss Westmoreland and all his lawyers had tried to convince us that Bonna and Cassie lied about Bonna being hung over that balcony. Even though Diddy tried to settle for Bonna. For what? Even though Cassie had text messages to KK literally being like, this is why that mofo's crazy. I need to stay away from this. But baby, Diddy's middle name is Audacity. That's how he built his kingdom. That's how he got his minions. And that's how his lawyers are being paid. Diddy's middle name is Audacity. But get this, and we're going to get into the mistrial and all the lies. And what do they have? They have a receipt from the Trump Hotel showing the check-in. Now, let me just say two things, right? One, I don't trust nothing coming from Diddy. First of all, can somebody check and make sure that receipt is actually real? Because I wouldn't put it past Diddy to go into Adobe Photoshop and be like, whoops, we didn't know. And I wouldn't put it past Mark Agnifilio. Because Diddy's whole team is, whoops, how are we to know? What do you mean, how are we to know? That's the first thing, okay? But the second thing we actually need to talk about is, and thank you, Autumn, for actually bringing this to my attention and dropping the receipts. What receipts does Diddy really have? Their whole crux of the matter is it couldn't have happened because we checked into a hotel on September 24th.
Please say it, Tisa.
You said this happened on September 26th. We checked into a hotel, Trump International, as a matter of fact, and this 100% proves that we were in New York City, and there's no way that could have happened. They showed room service receipts. They showed the hotel check-in. They showed everything. Except for the fact of, they kept revolving it around the Bad Boy reunion tour. So when Autumn sent me this information, I was a little confused. How How could this be? And how are you asking for a mistrial? When? Hear me out. On the 23rd, on 2016, the Bad Boy Reunion Tour, they were in Philadelphia, PA. I know what you're saying. Okay, Tisa, it's Philadelphia, PA. Where are you going with it? That's only 2 hours away from New York, and I believe they stayed at the Trump Hotel in Jersey. If they got one in Jersey, if not, it was probably the one in Lower Manhattan. Okay, so this is the thing, and this is on all the tour dates. Where were they at on the 24th? I want to know where were they at on the 24th. In Boston, they performed in Boston, Massachusetts on the 24th of September. Tell me how Diddy was performing late into the evening in Boston, Massachusetts on the 24th of September when Diddy's team is also saying that they checked into the Trump International Hotel also on the 24th of September. You actually didn't come into the New York area until September 25th. You came in September 25th and you performed in the somewhere in New Jersey, right? I want to say Newark, but who knows? You performed in Newark, right? On the 25th. And then after that, there's no paparazzi photos of you in New York. There is no confirmation you were ever in New York. And there's no confirmation that you were ever at that Trump hotel. So the same way they are asking for a mistrial based off that, let's actually look into this, play the somebody lying game. And it doesn't look like it's the prosecution. First of all, there's more than enough evidence that that mess with Bonner happened. And I hope the prosecution has a response to actually show why the plea, not the plea offer, but the
mistrial request,
the settlement that Rob Holiday offered to Bona was actually offered. Okay, I hope they find a way to get that into evidence. But again, tell me how you checked in on September 24th when you were in Boston, Massachusetts till late in the night. Tell me how you traveled to Newark on the 25th to perform later that night. Okay, so who checked in? Who was eating the room service? Who was doing all that stuff that you're now using? It wasn't you. And your court dates prove that. So if you had somebody checking on the 24th under Frank Black and they were eating the food, doing the room service that you weren't there, then who's to say that you were ever there? Maybe Frank Black is just a name that Diddy used to check in the stuff. We now get to, so 24th, you were in Philly. 25th, you had to go to Boston. 23rd, you were in Philly. This is all on the Bad Boy Reunion Tour things. 23rd, you were in Philly. 24th, you were in Boston, Massachusetts. 25th, you finally came to Newark. You were only in Newark one night. Where were you the rest of those times? And now the prosecution is trying to put in evidence and say you want a mistrial off of that mess. Diddy, please get out of here with this Fulton County nonsense. It's not happening, but it's scary that they have basically a whole blogosphere out here repeating their dumb talking points. I don't see Rico, I don't see this, and I'm not disrespecting anyone. If you honestly, you don't see it, you don't see it. But I want to know how many people are keying with Diddy's PR team.
That's just a lot of people. I can see why he's going to jail.
Are keying and getting their information and the whole thing from people that are trying to tell us what we should say and think, and they're maybe not telling us where they're getting their information from, where they're getting the talking points from. If you are sitting in the court every day and you make up your own mind, that's fine. I'm not going to hold you. But a part of the way you're informing yourself and you're sitting in the courtroom is to talk to the other side. That's like me talking to the prosecution and then trying to give y'all an update. I just want to know how many people's opinions are informed by people that actually have an agenda and an open checkbook. Now, I'm not saying that Diddy's team is making some type of social media hoopla to create chaos, to help with his appeal, to help to look like he's not being treated fairly. But I do think it's odd that a lot of people are overlooking the very basics that the prosecution 100% has Diddy dead to rights. But again, if Diddy wants to talk about this mistrial, if he wants to talk about lies, if he wants to talk about evidence, then I want you, since they're the ones that are calling the prosecution liars, and they're the ones that introduced this, I want to see proof that you were actually in New York City the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. I want to know. Because one thing I do want to say is, okay, even with Bona and Cassie's testimony and the text messages, the one thing that is consistent is that Diddy showed up at Cassie's door. Cassie was not with Diddy. Cassie was asleep in her bed. Diddy showed up at Cassie's door. Diddy was making a big kerfuffle. Diddy. And the last thing I do want to say is, you guys, can we stop? The fact that we are letting Diddy's team control the narrative, are you really expecting us to believe that we should think someone's lying because they said something that happened 20 years ago, happened on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday? The whole point of the matter is it actually happened, and there's proof it happened. That's like you get into a car accident and them saying, well, what color socks were you wearing? I don't effing know. I don't even, maybe I said I was wearing red socks. Maybe I was wearing sandals. It doesn't matter. The point is a tractor trailer came and tried to hit me. It is ridiculous the way we are letting the criminal, the alleged criminal, but the criminal in my heart, take control of the narrative and actually put this. Listen, Diddy and the bonnet thing happened. The people in that time frame know it happened. The prosecution actually thinks it happened. So when are we going to stop letting Diddy push the narrative? Because like everything else, I do now think that when the prosecution checks flight records, checks hotel stays, checks check-in to see who actually checked in at the front desk and showed their ID, and actually checks the actual dates of the bad boy reunion thing, I think that this whole mistrial thing is going to fall apart. Listen, it is going to be a showdown in the courtroom Monday. Your girl will be front and center in the showroom, in the courtroom. Let me...
Hold on, there's another one. Hold on. Hold on. This one.
Oh my God, you guys, come in, sit down, and shut the door. Remember how Diddy is asking for a mistrial? If you guys don't know, I'll do a video and a live about that later. Forget all that. I was asking, why is he doing the mistrial? It is because Jane Doe is about to end his entire existence. You guys, what am I talking about? We already know what Jane Doe is going to testify about on Monday and probably Tuesday. And the reason Diddy is scared and running for his life, and baby, who's the one that told us? The prosecutors. Let's get into this. Hit that like notification. Don't forget, I am going to be live later to actually talk about all this, and we're going to do the weekly recap. This week, I'm going to start having guests on to actually break down legal analysis, behavior analysis, legal eagles. Also, we're going to have some people that know about the criminal justice center system. We might even have some
short room, short bus. What's the deal?
What Diddy is really going to experience once he is locked up. Don't think Diddy's going to be locked up? Well, let's actually talk about what Jane Doe is going to testify. And you guys, spoiler alert, Jane Doe is testifying that Diddy used a lot of violence. And just like the whole Romeo lover thing, as long as she was fine to be manipulated into doing the freak-offs, the minute, and everybody's like, oh my God, why didn't she say no? The minute she said no, the real Diddy came out. And we're not talking about the one that Young Miami keeps trying to push across the internet. Girl, you know what? We'll talk about Young Miami in a different video, because I honestly don't understand how you saw that you dodged one of the biggest bullets in history, and you sitting there double down, still talking about, yeah, because unlike this and blah, 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 blah.
Because he didn't get to her at that point. He didn't get past the love bombing.
We can't stop you if you want to run. Anyway, y'all, let's get into what Jane Doe is going to testify about on what's the day? Monday. Don't forget, I will be in the courthouse and I will be giving live updates. Make sure you actually check it out. All right, y'all, let's get into this, okay? First of all,
from Kansas City to the capital city.
I don't know why they keep giving me this
will
one.
surprise you.
Let's get into this, okay? First of all,
smash the like button, brothers and sisters, and subscribe. Yes, support the platform.
The opening statements already told us all Jane Doe's tea. Now, she's going to give more on the stand, but listen to what she is going to testify, okay?
Let's go.
Let's actually talk about the violence, the stuff that people think doesn't exist. I'm going to read right out of the actual court documents, okay?
Let's go.
Okay. Like he did with Cassie, Diddy eventually took steps to control Jane Doe financially. The defendant wanted Jane available to meet with him at a moment's notice, and he discouraged her from working. Now, say what you want, he did that to every woman. Even as far as Drunk Miami said, he made me sit and feel like a woman. Okay, fine, and she got Carisha, please. But the City Girls were one of the most successful women rap acts out there, and they could have really gone the distance. But once Diddy got involved, what happened? They broke up. Maybe it had nothing to do with Diddy, but it's just odd. Anyway, right? There was also this, okay? They said that he gave Jane money and later started paying the rent for the house that she lived in with her child. That way, when Jane resisted the freak-offs and told him over and over that she wanted to stop, he had the power to coerce her back into hotel rooms. And was just, listen, and just as he had with Cassie, Diddy threatened Jane with the videos he recorded of her engaging in sex acts with an escort. So already we have sex trafficking by fraud, but also sex trafficking by coercion. Why? Because the blackmail of the sex tapes. Remember everybody said she's a grown woman. What did Timmy said? She's a grown woman and she does grown woman things. Well, the grown woman said, I don't want to do it. And that's when Diddy turned into full-time demon. So already we have by fraud, okay? And let this be a lesson for any man that thinks you're doing an okie doke. It is officially illegal, especially if you bring in sex workers. But now we have the coercion. Now, unlike Cassie, because it was 20 years ago, Jane Doe has text messages between her, Diddy, and she has text messages with KK, who was arguing she wasn't a co-conspirator, but who in the earlier video, earlier this week, or actually late last week, I actually said on the record in court, they actually said that KK is officially a co-conspirator. She can play stupid all she wants, but Jane Doe lets us know that KK not only knew what was going on, but she aided and abetted Diddy. Now, she might not have thought that it was illegal, but ignorance of the law is nothing, right? It doesn't matter. If I don't know that stealing all your money out your house is illegal, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get off. No. What does that mean? It means that I'm still going to be prosecuted. And ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking the law, because there are some things that are so inherently bad, so inherently offensive that they expect the average person to know. However, it's not over, y'all.
Yeah, I need for y'all to hit the like button.
Who cares? Well, not y'all, but the people in the back. Who cares? Who cares? Well, what about sex trafficking by force? What about sex trafficking by force? Listen to this, okay? So he's already threatened her with the videos. Remember, you also need to show with Rico, you need a pattern. Same, 2 videos, just like Cassie, and going to expose and going to threaten. It's not over, y'all, okay? They said, but the lies, the drugs, and the threats were not the end of it. Not even a year ago today, Jane had the worst day of her life. This is directly from the prosecution. Diddy came to Jane's house for an at-home date night. She and Diddy argued about another woman that the defendant had been seeing. Jane was upset, okay? And like he did with Cassie, he eventually took steps to control... Oh, wait, sorry. I'm like, whatever. Hold on. Let me get back in. He got on her about her being jealous. Jane was jealous. She had now spent years in hotel rooms for forced sex while the defendant took his other girlfriends for dates and trips. Now, hear me out again.
So that means that he would be one place and add another.
I assume Miami especially has been going out of her way to feel very cocky and very arrogant about, he ain't treat me like that. Well, as women, when are we going to start acknowledging that leopards don't change their stripes? Everybody wants to be the perfect princess. My love changed him. The other girl's that, but my love him. Every man, if you see him treating another woman bad, please know at first, even if he's treating you best, there's going to be a turning point where he turns into the same person. Because the mark of a person isn't how someone treats you when they feel well about you. It's how do you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them and you feel like you've already gotten everything you can out of them. That is the mark. And no matter how special and perfect you are, eventually it gets to that point where you're just regular to them. And how do they treat people that they think are just regular? Do they value them? Do they hit them? Do they lie to them? Do they force them to have freak-offs? I'm just saying.
She
Anyway,
just saying, leopards don't change their spots, zebras don't change their stripes. Right?
Diddy and
right,
threw things
Leo.
at him. Diddy became enraged. So Jane tried to get away from him and hide. She ran into the bedroom and she locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to the bathroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to her closet and locked the door. He kicked it open. This man is a rampage. And why is he always using his feet and legs? Anyway, right? She ran to the guest bedroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She tried to run out the front door, but he grabbed her in a chokehold and lifted her off the ground by her right here and then kicked her to the ground. Did he not do this with Cassie? It's not over. Later that night, they fought again. And just as he had with Cassie, he viciously attacked her. Now, I know there is going to be a bunch of manospheres, right? That are saying, well, she threw something at him. Because apparently in men's world, these men that are supposed to be leading us and guiding us and protecting us, you hit them once and that is an excuse for them to put you in the ground. But if a woman...
Everybody keep their hands to themselves. You just can't make them be no freak.
I'm sure there's going to be double standards, but baby, we are in the eyes of the law. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Everybody keep their hands to themselves.
And just as he had with Cassie, right? She viciously attacked her. He punched her in the face, kicked her while she was curled up in a ball on the ground.
But once somebody hit you, you put their ass in the dirt. Oh, she hit him first. Oh, God.
When all of this was over, the defendant, Diddy, still did not let Jane leave. Instead, he told her, you're not going to F up my night. He told her, forced her to put on one of his little stripper outfits he likes and call up an escort for a freak off. He made her cover up her black eye and bruising. And he made her take an X pill. Can somebody please explain the difference between Molly and X? Anyway, he made her take an X pill and perform for Diddy with an escort. Jane had no choice. She followed his instructions. Like with Cassie, right? The violence had gotten him what he wanted. You guys, what does this tell you? What does this mean? It lets you know 100% that the prosecution has Diddy did's rights, and that's why he's asking for a mistrial. Because as this goes on, the manosphere, his supporters, all the stupid, powerless people he has following him, there is no way he can stop the onset. And that is just from the prosecution's opening statement. They held a lot back. They didn't empty the clip. So you tell me why Diddy's rushing for a mistrial. Because he knows when Jane is done with her testimony and she got texts, she got proof, she might even have pictures. Baby, Diddy is going to be under the jail. Like we said before, the prosecution has Diddy dead to rights. And baby, we love to see it. Anyway, you guys, I'll be live later. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, what's next? What's next? What do I have next? What is this one? Let's go.
That Combs was yelling for her to do her, quote, job. Why is that important for the prosecution, and how do you expect the defense will respond to that?
Well, they're going to be arguing. She sent texts to Combs complaining, saying, I don't want to do this anymore. On her birthday, there were sexual acts that she said were non-consensual. So the fact that she's complaining, and Combs, interestingly, says, I'm not threatening you. The government's going to argue the reason he's saying I'm not threatening you is because exactly what he was doing, threatening her.
Was threatening
paying
her.
for her apartment, which he continued to do. And it's interesting as well, these acts, according to her testimony, occurred in August and July of 2024, only weeks before Combs was arrested, and while he knew he was already under investigation. So the government's going to argue that this was ongoing conduct and that her testimony about this being non-consensual. She also testified that she had infections as a result of the sexual escapade she was involved in, and Combs would not give her time to even get better. That he refused to let her, that he refused condoms to be worn, saying that's not going to happen. That this was a witness who was talking about the way that Combs controlled, and they will argue the enterprise controlled her conduct completely. And a very moving, I think, very important witness in corroborating Ventura in many ways as well.
Moving in disturbing details presented for the jury. Michael Bachner, thank you so much.
And some of the most graphic, difficult testimony we've heard so far unfolding on day 18 of the trial against Sean Diddy Combs. His former girlfriend got incredibly emotional, describing unwanted sex with male escorts and how those drug-fueled hotel nights, as she referred to them, kept happening, even after she told Diddy she wanted them to stop. In just a moment, my team of legal experts and court insiders will unpack day 2 of testimony from Jane, who is testifying under a pseudonym. And what she told the court is hard to listen to. She broke down on the stand describing several gut-wrenching hotel nights, including one Diddy sprung on her birthday. She said that she told him over and over the encounters had to stop, and testified that she entered what she called a love contract with Diddy, who later threatened to stop financially supporting her. Now, much of her testimony today detailed the unwanted hotel nights that she says she was pressured to take part in. One of the most shocking happened on her birthday in 2023. She flew to Miami with Diddy. She says she didn't expect to have a freak-off style hotel night, but she said Diddy unexpectedly alluded to one, telling the jury, "We were at a sushi place, and I was just really happy to be around my lover, and we was just so loving, and he was so loving and sweet as always. Then he starts to tell me what entertainment is tonight." She went on to say, "I had this gulp moment, like something was stuck in my throat, because I didn't expect that." Now, what she described next is hard to hear. She said Diddy gave her a necklace after dinner, and then a man she hadn't met before showed up to their suite. She talked about feeling robotic during the encounter and said that Diddy got frustrated when she asked for a condom for the man. Now, Diddy eventually gave her one, but she said he became unhappy and disinterested. Eventually, that man left, but then another showed up. So they had, quote, hours and hours of sex, and when he left, Diddy told her a third man was coming. She testified, "I acted like it was nothing, but inside, I hated it." Jane said she told Diddy multiple times the hotel nights had to stop. The jury saw this text she sent him shortly after her birthday. "I'd like to get off the hamster wheel and do something different with you." She sent this one in September 2023. "I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. It's dark, sleazy, and makes me feel disgusted with myself." A text like that started well before that birthday incident. This one is from February of 2022. "I don't ever want to do another hotel entertainment night with you." Jane also testified Diddy held significant financial control over her, knowing that they entered a 2-year verbal love contract in 2023 where he agreed to pay her rent. Later that year, texts show that they got in a fight over having a hotel night, and Jane said that she didn't want to do it because she was on her period. Diddy accused her of using him for money, and days later he sent her an audio message threatening to cut off support. This is what the jury then heard.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just wanted to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all. At all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence. And And ain't nobody threatening you, and I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you can be mad, I can have a spat, we can have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really, that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of like moving on like that, or you like just like have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat, I'm just being clear. I can't do this with you every time you get upset.
Well, my first guest witnessed all of the testimony in court today, Editor-in-Chief of All Rise News, Adam Klasfeld. He joins me now. Adam, quite an emotional Jane on the stand today. Tell me, from her demeanor, what stood out to you?
It was just a very harrowing day of testimony. As you said, she was crying for such a long period of it. It seemed like several minutes before the court recess was her struggling to get through testimony, and the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, asking her if she needed to stop. To her credit, she pushed through. And what stood out to me was the harrowing nature of it, the text messages that you read some of them in your introduction that showed that for years she was telling him continuously in no uncertain terms that she didn't want to do this, and that according to her testimony and to the extrinsic evidence, she was surprised and said that she did not expect these encounters to be sprung up on her by him.
What was Diddy doing while she was sobbing on the stand?
Well, it wasn't like yesterday where there was no concern from the judge that he was making eyes at the jury. From my view of it, he was sitting just in his seat at the defense table. There was nothing dramatic like that. I would say that the jury kept rapt attention. There was the man kind of sitting in the probably closest to the witness box, and he was looking in her direction the entire time. They didn't let on too many emotions for such an emotional day. They kept a very professional demeanor, but they were taking notes, they were engaged. I noticed at one point they were asked to see exhibits that will never become public. They're the the accounts, the depictions of the hotel nights, and they were taking notes. So we don't know what they got from that record, but there was something in there, in that sealed evidence, that was significant enough for them to make a notation about it.
You've been here throughout the trial. I wonder if you could compare a little bit your impression of Jane's testimony to Cassie Ventura's testimony, albeit these are, for the prosecution standpoint, they want there to be a common thread to build their case. But obviously, I'm not comparing two people's alleged traumas. But can you talk about the testimony and how they presented?
Absolutely. And again, without comparing any two people's traumas, this was a uniquely devastating day of testimony. I will say that that her testimony echoed Cassie Ventura's, not only in the kind of details and the progress of how this happened, but there was this moment, a very telling moment, where both of those witnesses broke down when they were asked by prosecutors, was there anything you liked about the encounters? And they both choked up when saying, being close to Sean. And I thought that was a very telling moment.
Indeed, there's a lot of similarities there. Again, they have to build on this pattern for the RICO and beyond. Adam Klasfeld, thank you so much. My brilliant legal panel is back with me now. We've got Jim Trusty, former chief of the DOJ's Organized Crime and Gang Section. He represented President Trump in the past as well. Monique Presley, a trial attorney who used to represent Bill Cosby. And Benjamin Chew, former co-counsel for Johnny Depp in his defamation case. I'll begin with you, Ben, because the emotion, the sobbing, the jury's reaction, every lawyer in that room, including the defendant as well, is looking very closely at this. But what do those things tell you about the effectiveness of her testimony, knowing that the jurors, they have to essentially assess credibility even through that emotion?
Well, not to use a flippant analogy, but for the prosecutors, this is like Aaron Judge hitting one out of Yankee Stadium. I think it sounds like she was the best witness they've had so far.
Why? Because of the sobbing, the emotion? Why does that connect with the jury?
Well, I think connects with the jury because they can really empathize with her. One of the texts that you didn't read, just a simple one, "This doesn't make me feel good." I mean, I think it's just, it really plays on the jury's feelings. I think they can empathize with her. This woman is someone's daughter, someone's aunt, someone's niece, and it sounds like she hit all the bases, not just emotion, but also coercion, also enterprise. I mean, she really helped them in a lot of areas.
Flip side, playing devil's advocate, I'll ask you all as well. How does it impact, because there's a lot of testimony from Cassie Ventura and that lingering question that many people obviously understand is judgmental of why did she stay? Why did she come back to this if this is how she felt? How does that play for a jury? Is that a consideration that as defense counsel you'd want to consider?
Well, I think it's an interesting game within a game here, because ultimately there are going to be questions of almost nullification or credibility calls where people are like, you know, she wanted to be a part of this so much. How can I call that a crime? How can I call that human trafficking or sex trafficking? The reality is, I think what we're heading towards next week or soon after is an expert who's going to talk about human trafficking and is going to basically say this is a common phenomena, this kind of hostage scenario where they're conflicted, where they know they're being debased, where they know they're being dominated in a horrible way, but they can't seem to break free of the psychological chains. And so I think that's going to be a critical kind of backstrap way of bolstering credibility down the road long after they've left the witness stand.
And that'd be distinct, of course, from, say, a previous witness who testified as an expert about people who were involved in domestic violence, who were victims of that. The trafficking element would be a different layer to talk about the mentality and the mental state. That'd be a distinct expert.
Right. And look, one of the things that was just mentioned that I think is really going to show up in closing argument, that text message is a good way of ending the week strong. If you're in a long trial as a prosecutor, it's a great tactic to find good stuff that's fairly impossible to refute, like text messages, like voice messages. Leave the jury with that on a Friday so they're stewing on it all weekend. And one of the messages there was something about you can't leave your job, or I forget what the phrase.
Oh, here it was. It was, he sent an audio message saying, quote, "You better get on your job. That's all it is." And then she added that, quote, "I understood that he had certain expectations of me that I had to fulfill them." And remember, this was something similar to what Cassie Ventura testified, that it became her job every week, 2-3 days a week to do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's going to be in closing argument. When they're talking about what labor trafficking is, I mean, remember, this is all these building blocks. You've got physical violence, sexual abuse that becomes human trafficking, which becomes the predicate crime for a RICO. It all builds together. So I think that's going to be a big part of closing argument. Those types of
It
phrases,
all builds
to
together.
their
Absolutely.
responsibility, their job, their employment.
Monique, how do you see it? And keep in mind, that may have also been a turn of phrase and slang. Well, go ahead.
So, based on what we just heard from Jem, any woman married or with an intimate partner who is being abused in a domestic violence situation with her husband or with her partner is being trafficked. Anytime she leaves and goes on a vacation she doesn't want to go on, anytime she does a task she doesn't want to do, anytime she has sex when she doesn't want to have it, even if the threat is not physical, even if the threat is emotional, that, by this standard, would be trafficking. That's a
if he getting paid, if he paying somebody to have sex with somebody, a lady.
Trafficking of another human.
And to be clear, you could charge a spouse for, say, rape. Consent is not gone away if the person is married to you. But your point is larger, that the idea of not wanting to participate in an activity could be elevated to sexual trafficking without more.
Right, and I'm not saying that it should be, and actually I don't think that it is. I don't.
Well, then what's your point?
That we're meeting the legal standard for coercion here. But what I am saying is, based on the arguments that are being made, that can be carried to every household, and it's not just.
She's slow in the head. Oh my God, who was her big mama now? Lady, that is absolutely not true. What makes it trafficking? What did I just do? What makes it trafficking?
Oh my God, you guys.
Oh my God, I'm here.
Shut the door.
She done rattled my nerves. What makes it trafficking?
Can be challenging. That's why Go Macro is
Hold on.
Is criminal.
No, hold on, lady. Hold on. Honey, I don't. Ooh, I gotta sit up on Matilda. I gotta sit up on Matilda. Lord. Now, I like your red lipstick. It's a pretty red. Is that Mac Woo? I don't know. But what makes it trafficking, African, uh, is the triple X workers. Yeah. The male hookers. Yeah. So if you happen to marry somebody and you don't want to have sex with some hookers that he done hired and he forced you to, that's trafficking. When money is exchanged for a service, lady with the pretty red lipstick, whether it's for her or for him, whether the hookers are male or female, it is now triple X trafficking. Now, you may not like it, but that's what that is. And the law ain't gonna change for you, lady with the pretty red lipstick. So no, it's not the same for when someone is married and don't want to go on vacation. No, that is not trafficking. No. When she don't want to have sex with her spouse. No, that's not trafficking. Takes it and he make you be intimate with someone else and pay them for their service, he has just pimped you. Okay? I'm talking to the lady with the pretty red lipstick and whoever think like that, because she's being very misleading. Okay? She tried to play in our face, didn't she? But her lipstick cute. Yeah, that's that Woo, ain't it? That's that Mac Woo. That's pretty. But you wrong as hell.
Statute is, but does that mean that that husband is a trafficker? Does that mean that if that husband has means, or if all he has is 2 pickup trucks and some land, that because he has some sort of means,
Girl,
that
you just
it's
wanted to
now
be on here to
trafficking
argue.
because he uses it? If they bring drugs in the house, I mean, all of these things are actually happening, not just with this one case, but all over this country and all over the world. So my concern is that this prosecution is stretching because they couldn't get what they should have been able to get, maybe because the time expired. They're stretching to get what they think they can.
I want to hear your reaction quickly, both of you.
Well, I was struck more by some of the details. I mean, for example, she asked that these people she didn't want to have sex with would at least use condoms, and he said no. I think
At times he said yes.
at times he said no, but I mean, she got
At any point she said no.
sick and because of this, and I think it shows the jury that he thought so little of her that he wouldn't even take care of her health, that his pleasure was more important than her health, and I think that will go a long way with the jury.
Jim?
Well, look, I think there's something to the points that were made about, how expansive the human trafficking definition may be to these prosecutors. That's going to be an issue for jury instructions and for the jury determinations. They're the ones that are going to have to decide, has the state met its burden, the government met its burden in this case. And I think that we're going to see a real pivot away from kind of the emotional and kind of the horrific details that we've been hearing, some of which are helping their credibility by being that detailed, into a more classic RICO case in the next week with different types of testimony.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Bianca Rodriguez in for Frederica Whitfield. We begin this hour with another shocking day in court at Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial. The jury hearing from another ex-girlfriend Friday. The woman testifying under the pseudonym of Jane gave explosive details alleging she endured multiple drug-fueled sex parties known as hotel nights or freak-offs at the direction of Combs. Jurors also heard audio messages from the music mogul, including this one after the two allegedly had an argument.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know. You think you silent treating me, and you think I'm gonna be nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence, and ain't nobody threatening you. And I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I'm saying?
threatening.
I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you could be mad. I could have a spat. We could have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of like moving on like that, or you like just like have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat. I'm just being clear. I can't do this with you every time you get upset.
CNN correspondent Kara Scannell brings us the details from outside the courthouse.
Sean Combs' former girlfriend was testifying under the pseudonym Jane, was on the stand all day Friday. In emotional testimony, she told the jury about how she had taken several trips to New York, Miami, Turks and Caicos under the promise of romantic weekends with Combs. She said she thought they might go shopping and out to dinner, but she said in every one of those trips, it turned into those hotel nights where they used drugs and she had sex with other men. She told the prosecutor that she never would have gone on the trips to Turks and Caicos if she knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
This all fits into the prosecution's theory of the case that she was sex trafficked by fraud, by these promises that they say were never meant to happen. They were just intended to lure her into having sex with these men in the hotels. They also showed the jury a text message that she sent Combs in 2023 where she said she didn't want to have these hotel nights anymore. She texts Combs, "I feel like it's the only reason why you have me around and why you pay for the house." Because Combs is paying $10,000 a month for the home she lives in, and he's still currently paying that rent. Jane also testified about drugs. She said she'd had used drugs only twice before she met Combs, but now in these hotel nights, she said that she was taking ecstasy multiple times in these nights. She said also to the jury that Combs had asked her to travel with drugs, that she'd arranged with his security and his personal assistant to bring a package to Miami, and that was her traveling with those drugs for Combs. Another part of this
Yeah, she
case
has
is
it all.
transportation for
She has it
prostitution.
all.
That's one of the counts in the charges. She testified that she helped arrange travel with one of Combs's travel agents to move some of these men to meet up with them for these hotel nights. Now, Jane is expected to be on the witness stand for most of next week, and testimony resumes on Monday. Kara Scannell, CNN, New York.
Well, thanks to Kara for that report. I'm joined now by Michael Bachner, criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney. In the 2001 trial, he represented Anthony Jones, Diddy's co-defendant and bodyguard. So, Michael, a lot of emotion on the stand this week. How might that affect?
Jane covers every last one of them.
Well, this witness, as I understand it, came across as an extremely sympathetic individual. She cried often on the stand. She sniffled loudly into the microphone. The jurors reacted to that. I think it's going to be a very hard argument for the defense to make that this woman is fabricating, that she's lying. It's interesting, she didn't testify that she was beaten the way Cassie Ventura testified
Not yet.
to, and she could have lied about that if she was trying to set Combs up, which is what I'm sure the prosecution will argue. So her testimony was really moving, really riveting. Talking about having 11 different men that she was having sexual escapades with, these debaucheries, these hotel nights. She checked all the boxes in the RICO case, in the racketeer influence corrupt organization charge. She talked about moving drugs, which was one of the predicate acts in that charge across state lines.
She covers every last one of them.
She talked about the fraud. She is a very significant witness.
And she testified about these hotel nights with Combs and hired male sex workers happening across the country from Los Angeles, New York, Miami. Why are these locations so significant to the case?
For the government to prove the prostitution charge, they have to show that people were moved for purposes of prostitution across state lines and there was money was transacted, number one. So that's why that is so significant for her to testify to. She also put in receipts during the course of the trial, and those receipts reflected payments that she would make for the travel that she was reimbursed for by Combs. And she's going to argue that this was, the government will argue that this is all part of the RICO enterprise. Money would be paid out, she would be reimbursed. When the drugs were trafficked, according to her, from Los Angeles to Miami, she was told apparently by one of Sean Combs's bodyguards that, don't worry, I do this all the time. So therefore also interjecting the fact that this is how the enterprise ran, the moving of narcotics across state lines for these freak-offs.
And during her testimony, we just heard that audio that was played in the courtroom alleging that Combs was yelling for her to do her, quote, job. Why is that important for the prosecution, and how do you expect the defense will respond to that?
Well, they're going to be arguing, she sent texts to Combs complaining, saying, I don't want to do this anymore. On her birthday, there were sexual acts that she said were non-consensual. So the fact that she's complaining, and Combs interestingly says, I'm not threatening you. The government's going to argue the reason he's saying I'm not threatening you is because exactly what he was doing, threatening her, paying for her apartment, which he continued to do. And it's interesting as well, these acts, according to her testimony, occurred in August and July of 2024, only weeks before Combs was arrested, and while he knew he was already under investigation.
Yeah.
So the government's going to argue that this was
We've heard
ongoing
this
conduct,
part.
and
Let's
that,
get to the next one.
Her testimony about this being non-consensual, she also testified
Ooh,
that
what I just get? What I just get? I got an envelope. Oh, hold on. Let me hurry up and get to my envelope. Who sent me an envelope? Kane Life. Hey, Kane Life. I got an envelope. Let me hurry up and get to it.
Imagine multiple threads becoming one. A single, non-linear digital thread.
Thank you, Kane Life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me go check it out. Thank you. Woo! You sent a whole bunch of jewels. Thank you.
The money, the power, the fear, the alleged stories they never thought would be told.
Former personal assistant of Sean Diddy Combs was back on the stand for week 4 of the sex trafficking trial. Mia said that Combs had the power and the dynamics of their relationship would shift from pleasant to terrifying when she saw violence, got hit herself, or when Combs sexually violated her. Starr fired Mia in 2017. The defense suggesting today that her dismissal had something to do with her drinking. Mia said absolutely not. On redirect, Mia, still with her head down, a prosecutor asking, have you ever been able to talk about Combs sexually assaulting you without keeping your head down? Mia emotionally saying, no, because it's the worst thing I've ever had to talk about in my life.
A hotel security guard took the stand in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. Someone actually interrupted the proceedings today, Erica.
Yeah, Adam, that actually happened today before the jury was in the room. She stood up, she started cussing, and then the U.S. Marshals escorted her out of the room. As she was doing that, as she was leaving, she yelled at Diddy that everybody is laughing at you. Eventually, when she was cleared out of the space, the jury finally got some answers about that hotel attack video. The jury learned that he paid $100,000 to make that video disappear. The guard who helped Combs orchestrate it was given immunity to testify. Garcia adding that his boss at the hotel agreed to wipe the server clean for $50,000. Eventually, the feds seized some electronics that belonged to one of Sean Combs' assistants. On those electronics, they found a copy of that NDA, those ID pictures, and a phone contact that read, Eddie, my angel.
Oh, he out of here, y'all.
A friend of Sean
That's why he tried to do that
today in the sex trafficking trial.
mistrial.
Dangling her over a 17th floor
Since
balcony
the jury
during a
is
violent
able to go
outburst.
home, do you think it's possible
Cassie's
someone
friend says that
from Diddy
Combs
Camp
grabbed her on the
could
balcony.
be paid?
He lifted me up.
That is possible.
I was trying not to slip.
Okay.
I was pushing back on him.
Yeah, it's
For a
possible
split
that,
second, I was
that
thinking I was
somebody
going to
has tried
fall,
to reach
but he
out
was
to
yelling
him,
at me,
and
so I
that's
was trying to
probably
answer.
why. the judge is threatening to remove him from the court. Somebody has also been telling, I think. But let me tell you what's going to happen if that happens. Let me tell you what I think will happen. This is just my opinion. I think that if they pull their stunt or attempt to pull that stunt, because they have concrete evidence. They have concrete evidence. There is, and they have it so possible. See, first of all, somebody should already know not to try to pull that stunt with the feds. First of all. But just in case they do try, it's so dang concrete. It's so plain cut and dry that it leaves no room for, well, maybe I didn't look at it like that way. When they put the law, not your opinion, okay? When they write it down, what bribery is, and they show you who was bribed, right? You can't say, oh, well, no, that's not bribery. That's bribery. They just told you what bribery is and who was bribed. When they show you what transportation of workers, when Jane said, I went to different states to have these hotel stays, multi-state. So you was transported. You can't say, oh, well, no, that's not transportation. You can't do that. See, then they'll know that you've been bought. Right? That means that you are now perjuring. You're not taking on the oath, because it's cut and dry. It's cut and dry. When she has email, text information saying, I don't want to do this, and he says, if you don't, I'm send this to your mama and everybody on her job. So much so that she sends a wire transfer of money. That's coercion. There's no way that you can say that's not coercion. So even if he does try to pay them to throw it, they can't throw it. They really can't throw it. Because you have to explain how you got there. This ain't just no misdemeanor court. How did y'all come to this conclusion? How did y'all come to this conclusion? Well, we don't think that when she sent the money, the $20K, and refinanced her house, that she had to do that. Whether she had to or not, someone coerced her, told her that if you didn't, I'm going to release this. And somebody from that enterprise gave them instructions to how to wire the $20K. Okay? So he could try, but at this point, the judge has made it clear that we have been advised that you are trying to either intimidate or sway. So that's why I don't know who I heard somebody over the weekend saying even the person who they knew was buying into him, after the judge ripped in not only into Diddy, but also ripped into the jury. We didn't get that part, right? But they say, people who was there say he ripped into the jury. Oh, I think it was, I think I know who said it. I think I know who said it. So not only did he get a treatment, the jurors got one too. So the rest of that day, Friday, everybody was Even the girl that they were saying was being persuaded. Okay, let me finish.
Her relationship with Combs shifted from sweet, loving to dominated by freak-offs, saying one day at his Miami home,
It was started out only supposed to be with him.
man while he watched. What threats did he make to you? You said that you didn't want to have sex with another man. He would start saying things like, if you want to break up, that's fine. You have 3 more months in the house.
Oh, wow. Did y'all hear that?
A woman who goes by the pseudonym Jane broke down in tears as she described.
If she didn't want to, he gave her a 90-day notice.
To dominate on a Bongalon, Cassie's friend says that Combs grabbed her on the balcony. He lifted me up and put me on top of the rail. I was trying not to slip and I was pushing back on him. For a split second, I was thinking I was going to fall, but he was yelling at me, so I was trying to answer.
Some dramatic moments in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. The judge threatened to throw Combs out of the courtroom for making facial expressions to the jury.
Discussing how her relationship with Combs shifted from sweet, loving to dominated by freak-offs. Saying one day at his Miami home, Combs suggested that she have sex with another man while he watched. What threats did he make to you? You said that you didn't want to have sex with another man. He would start saying things like, if you want to break up, that's fine. You have 3 more months in the house.
A woman who goes by the pseudonym Jane broke down in tears as she described being ordered to have sex
He gave
with
her a
strangers
90-day
during
notice.
so-called hotel nights. Also today, Jane's attorney claims certain media outlets and members of the public are trying to expose Jane's identity.
At times, Jane's testimony was so graphic that it was hard to listen to. She was talking about the times that she says that Sean Combs showered her with gifts and then made her perform sexually for days. She said that she helped select some of the escorts. Also like Cassie, Jane said that Combs had her freak off on her birthday twice. Jane will be on the stand much of next week as well.
He out of here, y'all. That's why he did that fake.
During the newscast, Erica has 3 minutes, which isn't enough time to tell the entire story of what happened that day. So we want to show you
fake mistrial request.
Just outside of the headlines you're reading. Erica is our court reporter, and Erica, there's so many things we can't see, but I want to dig deeper on some of the things you did tell us about that we saw in that piece. And first of all, these bit of chaotic moments in court earlier this week.
Yeah, there's actually a woman who was in court. She stood up and she
Yeah,
yelled
I need y'all to
something,
hit the
and
like
what
button.
she did got her kicked out of the courtroom. Let's listen. She talked to us afterwards. So what were you saying to Combs? You said...
I said, Diddy, everyone's laughing at you. Every overcrowded room in here, in this courthouse, is
Oversized.
laughing, and it's not nice. To make fun of this black man and his legacy is important.
Girl, shut up.
Nobody should be laughing. My take on
I'm
it is
laughing.
Everyone is laughing.
I'm laughing at his dumb ass.
Quickly escorted her out.
They did, and then we initially heard that she was going to be barred from the main courtroom, not the whole courthouse, but ultimately the decision came down. She can no longer come into the building, period.
Okay, maybe sending a message they would not like that kind of outburst again. All right, let's talk about some of the things you heard and some of the things that you reported on. The testimony about dangling off a balcony.
Yeah, let him traffic you.
So yes, that came in this week with Bonna on the
Dumb
stand.
lady.
She was talking about what happened allegedly here in this building. This is one of the buildings that the jury has seen multiple times. It's the building where Cassie Ventura lived. She lived on the 17th floor of this building. But if you look at some of the sketches that we saw this week, you'll see Bonna with her arms, you see it right there, her arms up in the air. She says that's what Sean Combs did to her in a day in 2016. She says that he held her up and she was dangling over that balcony with her feet there on that railing. Yeah, you see it there in the sketch. And she says that she was teetering back. She thought she was going to fall. And in that moment, Sean Combs was yelling, "You know what you did." Bonna still now says she has no idea what he was talking about. But what was interesting about this, and this is what made it much more riveting, is on cross-examination, this whole thing came up again. The defense brought up some evidence that showed that there was a hotel stay for Sean Combs here in New York City the exact same time that Bonna says this happened in Los Angeles. So the defense asked her, can one person be in two places at once? And she was like, well, I guess. So that's something definitely the jury is going to have to sort through as they look at this case.
That uncertainty despite this testimony. Okay, great. Talk to us about what she
Well,
said
all
about
the
sobriety and
prosecution has to
sexual
do is
activity
contact
during that
me.
time.
I explain it
That's
to
right,
him.
because the second main accuser in this case, Jane, is now
Oh, yeah,
on the
he's going
stand
to jail.
speaking to the jury. And Jane, we know that Cassie is the main accuser in this case, Cassie Ventura. Jane is the second one. One of the things that she told the jury that she had to do with Sean Combs is something called a sobriety party. I guess that he'd been doing a lot of drugs that we've been hearing throughout this case, and he had said, hey, I'm going to get clean. I'm going to do it for 30 days. Let's have one last hurrah, essentially. So Jane says that she did it, and that day it lasted 12 to 18 hours. She had sex with one escort, then a second escort, and this is one of the first times that she tried to do one of these things sober. Combs was not sober, she was. She said that what happened afterwards, after escort 2, she threw up, and then Sean Combs came in and said, oh, it looks like you feel better. Let's go because the third guy is here. So then she says she had to have intercourse with that third guy, and afterwards she said that she was disgusted, she was repulsed, and she just deeply regretted doing that.
And we should point out, you took a lot of notes during this because Cassie was kind of well known going into the case. We don't know who Jane is, and you can't report who Jane is.
That is
what I really meant to say.
Yeah, that's a big part of this case. We do know who Jane is. We see her there on the stand, but we're not allowed to release her name publicly. That was the judge's rule. We're not even allowed to describe what she looks like. So mum is the word from the media on Jane, but we are hearing that other people are talking about who Jane is.
Go ahead, because you took notes on what she said now about drugs.
Yeah, so Jane is the first witness that we've heard from who said that she actually funneled drugs for Sean Combs. She was talking about how she picked them up in LA twice and brought them to Miami. She said that she worked with one of his assistants, KK, and KK told her when Jane was kind of concerned about it, don't worry, it's fine. I do it all the time. All you have to do is put it in your checked luggage. So Jane did that, but she said she still didn't feel safe.
All right. You had to take a lot of notes when the subject of text messages came up.
A lot of people have asked me, they've seen me, they said, you know, have these ladies ever said they didn't want to do these things? The jury saw this fourth week of the case that, yes, at least Jane has said multiple times she didn't want to. We saw a text message from September 17th of 2023. Let's look at the second half of it. She says that she texted this to Sean Combs. I did not want to feel obligated to have these kind of nights with you, fearing that I'll lose the roof over my head. We just need to talk about this like adults. Afterwards, Sean Combs texted her, girl, stop. But again, the jury saw this text message and others throughout the years saying that she did not want to engage in this.
And just so I'm clear, in the timeline of the narrative of allegations, Cassie, going back a few more years, this text from 2023.
Yes, Jane was telling us that she started dating Sean Combs in 2021 up until his arrest in 2024. Cassie Ventura says that her time with Sean Combs ended in 2018.
Again, and we're acknowledging there have been public reports about some people identifying her, but as far as we're concerned, we can't. But I just want to ask you before you go, because you are down there, you have this moment where a woman erupts. You have a moment also where the judge chastises Combs himself.
Yes, a lot of people were obviously wanting to see what Jane was going to do, but before she took the stand, the judge chastised him, as you mentioned, scolded him, because there were some moments throughout the week where he's making eye contact with the jury. The judge said, no more of that. If it happens again, you're gone.
So what is the feeling inside and outside? What are you sensing down there when you're there every day?
The feeling in the courtroom this week alone was very strange. People are showing up.
Which lady? The crazy lady?
Other people who are in the courthouse.
She can't go in there no more.
People are being escorted out when things like this are happening. At least the court officers are trying to take the children out.
Okay. We appreciate your coverage. Of course, we'll see you back here on the case. Thank you. It's almost ironic. For decades, Diddy's story has played out over the airwaves just in his own voice. Now, it is being told by others, and alleged details he hoped would never come to light. It could be in your group chats, over car speakers, or through headphones on the train. The case against Sean Diddy Combs isn't being picked apart just by legal teams in real time. Alexis Linkletter from the First Degree podcast and I talk about what others aren't saying out loud. Alexis, I first wanted to ask you, because the premise, more or less, with the First Degree podcast is that you do these deep dive and, of course, some of the darker sides of humanity, but you'd always get 1 degree or a step close to the victim or the suspect or the crime itself. What led you and your co-host to now do a deep dive into the Diddy trial?
Yeah, so we developed a portion of our podcast called The Deep Dive because we kept getting requests from our listeners to delve into the darker side of pop culture. So it really started with this interest in topics like Epstein and conspiracy theories surrounding what happened with him. And then when the Diddy arrest occurred, we just were getting a ton of requests for a deep dive into Diddy and all of the sort of tangential connections in his entire world.
In your space, you know, the podcast, the TikTok arena that you have also entered, what makes this so ripe for that kind of coverage?
Just all the connections in Diddy's world, these celebrity connections that just are really enamoring people because all of these people have been on pedestals to the public for a long time. Diddy himself. So I think really just people are having a hard time understanding and believing that all of these well-known celebrities could have ties to this insidious world. And then there's this doubt about whether the real story is being told. So I think the public is turning to mediums like TikTok and to podcasts to hear about things they're not sure would even be covered on the news.
And let me ask you now, as you focused in on the trial, what has stood out to you so much now in the testimony that we've heard so far?
Over and over again, we're hearing of these very vivid descriptions of violence. Just the casual nature of the alleged violence that was used seemingly in day-to-day life, in Diddy's business operations, in his romantic life, in his friendship circle. I just am blown away by just these accounts, these anecdotes we're hearing of this just pervasive casual violence.
And it's so interesting because listening to your podcast with your co-host, you're able to report what happened, obviously, but you have a freer reign to kind of give your observations.
It does give us a different lane. You know, a podcast medium does give you freedom to sort of express your opinions. Now, that's a choice. Some podcasts covering Diddy, they don't do that. It's straight reporting. But I think Jack and myself, we have doubts. You know, we have questions about the way things are unfolding in the courtroom. And as we know, it's a federal courtroom, which means cameras aren't permitted. So there's a lot of mystery about who's attending, who's there, the energy in the courtroom. So it is kind of ripe for a healthy dose of speculation and a lot of questions. You know, I think one of the big things too, in the lead up to this trial, we heard all of these celebrity names being mentioned, but none of that really in court yet. No celebrities have taken the stand. We haven't really received any confirmation as to whether any will. And I think that's something a lot of people, including ourselves, have been questioning too.
A lot of names and it's in the orbit, right? What's the reaction to you taking this deep dive with your listeners? Have you seen a growth in audience or an intrigue? Is that the reason that it drove you to do it?
Was not our traditional format. It's something we really took a sincere interest in and decided to just delve into and do these extra episodes every week to update the public about what was going on. And people are really, really seduced by the subject. And the feedback has been great. The interest is massive. And I think just the shock, you know, we have a whole community, our podcast community is engaging about this in places like Facebook groups. And the questions persist, the interest persists, and I don't see any signs of it slowing down.
What's the risk with those entering in this TikTok arena or these influencers obviously talking about the trial, but not necessarily having to be limited by facts, if you know what I'm saying? Talk to me about that.
Just having a discussion.
I think with non-traditional media and storytelling, there's always risks of being irresponsible with conveying information. And I think that is a burden that all of us need to carry, is to not go wild with speculation and make sure you're reporting facts with integrity, which can be difficult to do if you're not there, which is why, you know, at least in our podcast space, we're very tempered. We don't make any wild speculations or assumptions about what's going on. We really are bracing ourselves to see what unfolds in court.
All right, Alexis Linkletter, the First Degree Podcast.
Thank you so much. The key to being rich is knowing what.
Alexis Linkletter, the First Degree Podcast.
Thank you so much.
We know his music, we can hear his voice. We've seen his rise to fame, but one mystery remains: what goes on inside the mind of Sean Diddy Combs? Joining us is New York psychiatrist Dr. Judith Joseph, who's been paying attention to the case, and not presuming that you'd try to answer that question fully, Dr. Joseph, but we do want to talk to you, broadly speaking, about some of the human emotions and drama that has been testified about, and what the thinking could be. And I think one of the things, and Erica alluded to it earlier, you've been getting the questions outside when you talk to people. We hear these questions of how these victims, alleged victims, with this kind of testimony would not try to leave sooner. And I know the prosecution brought in a blind psychologist early on that probably tried to get ahead of that. But talk to us about that, because that seems to be a big part of the conversation.
It's interesting because you would think if something bad happened, why would you put yourself back in that situation? But the thing about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is that sometimes people put themselves back into dangerous situations hoping that they'll have a different outcome this time around. It's our way of kind of cheating our brain and trying to control a situation. And that's why many people who go through trauma will put themselves back into things like drug use or speeding or violent situations, because it's their brain's way of trying to control the outcome. This time around, I'm going to be a survivor. This time around, it's going to be different.
We heard both Cassie and Jane say that, so that's pretty interesting. And then we haven't heard Jane talk about any diagnosis that she has, but Cassie did say something about PTSD. Would you think that makes sense in this case?
Well, when someone experiences trauma, PTSD is something that can be a reaction. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, happens when you survive something that is really violent or life-threatening, and you may have things like nightmares, flashbacks, but also you could have these types of responses that most people don't know about. Things like internalizing shame and blame, things like putting yourself back in dangerous situations again.
Erica, you told us there was some fairly aggressive cross-examination of Mia with the questions of, well, how can you send loving texts or adoring texts? Or it's one thing to stay if you feel you can't leave, but then to affirm affection. Talk to us about that.
The cycle of abuse, if that alleged abuse did happen, is such that usually tension builds. So, the communication breaks down, there's fighting, then there's an incident, right? The thing that is traumatizing. But then there's a period of reconciliation. So the person says, I'm sorry, or it won't happen again, or it'll be different this time. Then there's a period of calm and peace. During that period of calm and peace, many people feel like, okay, maybe this is over, maybe things will be different. But then the cycle
Are y'all still
continues.
able
So
to
a lot
hear?
of times, people end up back in these situations because they're not aware that they're in this cycle of abuse. It's so difficult to get out.
The other thing that kind of stood out to me, and maybe it's the cycle of abuse you're talking about, is we were seeing the evidence that was coming out, a lot of those text messages, and you could see what Sean Combs was allegedly telling these women, and it was things like that, like,
Thank
no, I
you.
love you, good morning, how are you, beautiful, things like that. Is that was that a courting situation?
It's a part of that cycle of abuse. It's a manipulation. And especially when you're dealing with someone who is abusive, but also has sociopathy or psychopathic tendencies, they're very good at being charming, manipulative, and also they're intimidating. So one point they're calm, they're charming, they're loving, and then another point they can be very, very scary. And when you're in that cycle, it's very difficult. We have to remember there's something called the just war theory. Many people will say bad things happen to bad people.
And I don't see any signs of it slowing down.
His music, we can hear his voice. We've seen his rise to fame.
Oh, you bless your heart. But I hope you're not a sociopath or whatever other words she just used.
Joseph, who's been paying attention to the case, and not presuming that you'd try to answer that question fully, Dr. Joseph, but we do want to talk to you, broadly speaking, about some of the human emotions and drama that has been testified about.
PTSD is real.
What the thinking could be, and I think
And a lot of people have it and don't realize it.
Alluded to it earlier. You've been getting the questions outside when you talk to people. We hear these questions of how these victims, alleged victims, with this kind of testimony would not try to leave sooner. And I know the prosecution brought in a blind psychologist early on that probably tried to get ahead of that. But talk to us about that, because that seems to be a big part of the conversation.
It's interesting because you would think if something bad happened, why would you put yourself back in that situation? But the thing about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is that sometimes people put themselves back into dangerous situations hoping that they'll have a different outcome this time around. It's our way of kind of cheating our brain and trying to control a situation. And that's why many people who go through trauma will put themselves back into things like drug use or speeding or violent situations, because it's their brain's way of trying to control the outcome. This time around, I'm going to be a survivor. This time around, it's going to be different.
We heard both Cassie and Jane say that, so that's pretty interesting. And then we haven't heard Jane talk about any diagnosis that she has, but Cassie did say something about PTSD. Would you think that makes sense in this case?
Well, when someone experiences trauma, PTSD is something that can be a reaction. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, happens when you survive something that is really violent or life-threatening, and you may have things like nightmares, flashbacks, but also you could have these types of responses that most people don't know about. Things like internalizing shame and blame, things like putting yourself back in dangerous situations again.
Erica, you told us there was some fairly aggressive cross-examination of Mia with the questions of, well, how can you send loving texts or adoring texts? Or it's one thing to stay if you feel you can't leave, but then to affirm affection. Talk to us about that.
The cycle of abuse, if that alleged abuse did happen, is such that usually tension builds. So, the communication breaks down, there's fighting, then there's an incident, right? The thing that is traumatizing. But then there's a period of reconciliation. So the person says, I'm sorry, or it won't happen again, or it'll be different this time. Then there's a period of calm and peace. During that period of calm and peace, many people feel like, okay, maybe this is over, maybe things will be different. But then the cycle continues. So a lot of times people end up back in these situations because they're not aware that they're in this cycle of abuse. It's so difficult to get out.
The other thing that kind of stood out to me, and maybe it's the cycle of abuse you're talking about, is we were seeing the evidence that was coming out, a lot of those text messages, and you could see what Sean Combs was allegedly telling these women, and it was things like that, like, oh no, I love you, good morning, how are you, beautiful, things like that. Is that was that a courting situation?
It's a part of that cycle of abuse. It's a manipulation. And especially when you're dealing with someone who is abusive, but also has sociopathy or psychopathic tendencies, they're very good at being charming, manipulative, and also they're intimidating. So one point they're calm, they're charming, they're loving, and at another point they can be very, very scary. And when you're in that cycle, it's very difficult. We have to remember there's something called the just rule theory. Many people will say bad things happen to bad people, good things happen to good people. So when you hear stories of someone being hurt or violated, the human brain automatically thinks, well, they must have done something, right? We have to try and challenge that because trauma is very complex.
What do you think about the expert, I'm sorry, who did testify about these things? I mean, I did hear some people, at least in the overflow room, saying, oh, this is why there might be some gaps in memory, things like that, as they were talking about the trauma. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
The human brain does this to protect you. If you remember something that's really painful, your body goes into fight or flight, your heart races, you can't function, you break down. So many times in trauma, the human brain will push down that memory to protect you so that you're not having flashbacks, so that you're not having this reliving of this painful experiences, so that you can function. So it's quite common for victims to say, I don't remember. The problem with that is that in a court of law, that makes them look questionable, it makes them look unreliable, it makes them look like they're lying. So it's a very delicate situation. It's important to have trauma-informed people on both sides of the defense and also, in the prosecution.
And let's ask you, it's probably an unfair question. You haven't treated him, I don't know if you've met him, but when we talk about Sean Diddy Combs, again, allegations have to be proven. He has denied any wrong allegations. But if we took the videotape alone, where he did publicly apologize for that hotel video, and then, of course, Cassie's testimony, what are your observations, you think, in a broad sense, of Sean Diddy Combs and his mental health?
Well, I haven't treated him.
Right.
I can't really speak to him specifically.
Right.
But in many cases of people who have been convicted of heinous crimes, like the ones that are alleged here, they themselves were abused. It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Also, many times it's not even about the sex, it's about the power. This person wants control. So you see people bending to them, yielding to them, no matter what.
Is there anything in this testimony that stands out to you that maybe didn't stand out to the layperson who's observing it?
It's interesting because of the public discord. Like, people will say, how could this happen? I think we need to realize the human brain does this. The just war theory is really valid. We often think that, somehow the person shouldn't have been in this situation, but anyone can find themselves in these situations because it doesn't start off with violence. It doesn't start off with heinous things. It starts off really beautiful, but then it ends up being very scary.
Dr. Judith Joseph, thank you for shedding some insight on
Yeah,
this
let me
process
go
and
back
things
to
that
the
we've been seeing.
social
Here's some
apathy.
people, at least in the over situation.
It's a part of that cycle of abuse. It's a manipulation. And especially when you're dealing with someone who is abusive, but also has sociopathy or psychopathic tendencies, they're very good at being charming, manipulative, and also they're intimidating. So one point they're calm, they're charming, they're loving, and at another point they can be very, very scary. And when you're in that cycle, it's very difficult. We have to remember there's something called the just rule theory. Many people will say bad things happen to bad people, good things happen to good people. So when you hear stories of someone being hurt or violated, the human brain automatically thinks, well, they must have done something, right? We have to try and challenge that because trauma is very complex.
What do you think about the expert, I'm sorry,
No,
who
no,
did
yes.
testify about these things? I mean, I did hear some people, at least in the overflow room, saying, oh, this is why there might be some gaps in memory, things like that, as they were talking about the trauma. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
The human brain does this to protect you. If you remember something that's really painful, your body goes into fight or flight, your heart races, you can't function, you break down. So many times in trauma, the human brain will push down that memory to protect you so that you're not having flashbacks, so that you're not having this reliving of this painful experiences, so that you can function. So it's quite common for victims to say, I don't remember. The problem with that is that in a court of law, that makes them look questionable, it makes them look unreliable, it makes them look like they're lying. So it's a very delicate situation. It's important to have trauma-informed people on both sides of the defense and also, in the prosecution.
And let's ask you, it's probably an unfair question. You haven't treated him, or I don't know if you've met him, but when we talk about Sean Diddy Combs, again, allegations have to be proven. He has denied any wrong allegations. But if we took the videotape alone, where he did publicly apologize for that hotel video, and then, of course, Cassie's testimony, what are your observations, you think, in a broad sense, of Sean Diddy Combs and his mental health?
Well, I haven't treated him.
Right.
I can't really speak to him specifically.
Right.
But in many cases of people who have been convicted of heinous crimes, like the ones that are alleged here, they themselves were abused. It's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Also, many times it's not even about the sex, it's about the power. This person wants control. So you see people bending to them, yielding to them, no matter what.
Is there anything in this testimony that stands out to you that maybe didn't stand out to the layperson who's observing it?
It's interesting because of the public discord. Like, people will say, how could this happen? I think we need to realize the human brain does this. The just war theory is really valid. We often think that, somehow the person shouldn't have been in this situation, but anyone can find themselves in these situations because it doesn't start off with violence. It doesn't start off with heinous things. It starts off really beautiful, but then it ends up being very scary.
Dr. Judith Joseph, thank you for shedding some insight on this process, some of the things that we've been seeing and hearing.
Thank you for having me.
Outside the courthouse, the trial is playing out in whispers, and Erica listens to some of them when she's not busy in court, in shouting or completely being ignored. And here on the case, we want you to know what that feels like.
Okay, yeah, I'm finna get ready to shut it down.
You ever seen the hibachi guy do this? And crack the egg and spin the egg with the
Oh no, I'm finna get ready to shut it down. Y'all not getting my likes up.
You ever seen the hibachi guy do this? And crack the egg and spin the egg with the spatula and all that stuff? That's what Nicole Westmoreland was doing with Bond.
Yeah, This is probably going to be, let me see. Let me see. Oh yeah, I want y'all to know that
Play you for those ultras? Well, we're
50 Cent didn't just find out.
11. He took to his Twitter to write, "How you model for smooth if your coochie bumpy?" Wait a minute now. The brakes.
This is over a year old.
Come again now. Maybe I didn't hear that right. He later deleted the tweet. So y'all gonna gloss right on over the bumpy coochie, huh? Oh, okay. As the years passed, they never officially confirmed the status of their relationship. And then in 2013, all hell broke loose. Say it with me, besties. Here we go. Here we go. 50 was accused of ransacking Daphne's bedroom during a June 2013 argument at her Los Angeles condo. Daphne told police that 50 made $7,100 worth of damages in her condo. And when
Oh,
she
I didn't
locked
know
herself
all
in
of
her
this was.
bedroom, he kicked the door open and kicked her. Police
Oh,
found broken chandeliers,
oh Lord, I
destroyed
wasn't
furniture
trying.
throughout the home, clothes thrown all over the place, a broken television, and a broken lamp. The hell wrong with him? The hell was he so mad
Oh
about?
Lord, I thought this is when they was talking about.
Is that it? What was most surprising about the allegations was the police report, where investigators dropped a bombshell. 50 and Daphne had secretly welcomed a child. Yup. Daphne had quietly given birth to a baby boy named Sire Jackson in September 2012, which was about 9 months before their domestic incident went down. In a statement, her lawyer said, Daphne Joy and Curtis Jackson have been together for a few years in an exclusive relationship. They had a child, and now Daphne's #1 priority is to ensure both her and the baby's safety during this difficult time. However, the Los Angeles city attorney referred to Daphne as 50's former girlfriend. 50 was facing up to 5 years in prison, but he took a plea deal and was ordered to do 30 days of community service, and he was placed on 3 years probation. By that point, it appeared that their romantic relationship was over. Bye, Ashley. It wasn't until January 2014 that 50 publicly acknowledged their son, Sire. Then came July 2015. 50 was ordered to pay Rick Ross's baby mama $5 million after he posted a sex tape of her and another man online in order to get under Rick's skin. Weeks later, 50 filed for personal bankruptcy in Connecticut. He told the court he was only worth about $4.4 million, and his online displays of wealth were all smoke and mirrors. Look at him trying to get out of that lawsuit. His lawyer told the court that 50's bank account was approaching $0 because of unpaid debts, which included $1,737 he owed to his grandfather. Not him borrowing money from Paw. As for 50, he told the court, now that I filed for bankruptcy, I'm not as cool as I was last week. Nigga, sit your ass down. You ain't been cool since Go Shawty. It's your birthday. The most interesting part about his bankruptcy filing was the revelation that Daphne was only receiving $1,267 per month in child support. And
Oh, well,
his
that's.
first child's mother, Shaniqua Tompkins, was receiving a little over $6,000 per month. Oh, really? What happened to have a baby by me, baby, be a millionaire? Well, 50 had all that going on. Daphne moved on with Jason Derulo in the fall of 2015. BET.com reported that 50 flooded his social media account with pictures of his and Daphne's son, Sire, during the 2015 holidays. But when Daphne and Jason went public with their romance by posting intimate vacation pictures, 50 suddenly removed
Oh, so
all
she
the
get
photos of
around,
his
y'all.
son, Sire,
But it
from his
still don't mean
Instagram.
that he can
50
pimp
turned
her
the
out.
pettiness up a notch by commenting on a photo of Daphne and Jason with, but don't worry, baby, I'm fine, just a little shook up. LMAO, good morning. Oh, him feeling was hurt. After about 6 months of dating, a source told TMZ that Daphne ended things with Jason. Jason moved on and later made Jenna Frumes a single mother. Y'all messy as hell. Daphne put her focus back on raising her son, and she and 50 patched up their friendship as well. Now, let's fast forward to July 2018. 50 was having a very busy month. After Remy Ma shared a picture of her slimmed down figure on Instagram, 50 left a comment that read, "Damn, Remy, you lost mad weight. Hey, Slim," with his thirsty ass. Apparently, Remy's husband, Papoose, wasn't feeling that comment. Papoose responded, "Damn, Daphne Joy, no wedding yet? If 50 Cent doesn't marry you, I'll introduce you to my homeboy. He's more mature. My left shoe is more mature than 50 Cent." And then 2 weeks later, 50 was involved in another online feud. This time it was with his on-again, off-again friend, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd posted a photo from his son's high school graduation, and 50 made fun of the boxer's literacy in the comments. A week after 50's shady comment, Floyd's ghostwriter, y'all so messy. Floyd took to his Instagram to post a lengthy response. The post, which is still on Floyd's account after all these years, drops some interesting tea. The boxer called 50 a certified snitch who hasn't had a hit song on the radio in years. Floyd then accused 50 of living in an apartment in New Jersey and staying in other people's business just to stay relevant. The most damaging part of the clapback was when Floyd wrote, "So quick to gossip like a why don't you tell everybody how you got herpes from DJ?" Yeah. Say what now? Not the bumpy coochie again. That drop of tea also led people to revisit D-Ray's statement he made back in 2011 about someone on the cover of Smooth magazine having a bumpy coochie. What in the Nestle Crunch is going on in Hollywood? Floyd ended his message by saying, "Just remember, I was with you every day, and your driver, Bruce, was my driver also. I know where all your bones are buried. So be easy, Curtis Jackson." Not the government name. But he wasn't done. In another post, Floyd included a photo of Maury Povich along with side-by-side photos of 50 and his sons Sire and Marquise. In his caption, Floyd took shots at 50's strained relationship with Marquise. And then Floyd added, "Don't worry, Marquise. Uncle Floyd still got you. I would hold little man down too, but you're still not sure if he really belongs to you."
Oh.
Yeah. Bumpy coochie and questionable paternity? Fix it, Jesus. The years passed by, and 50 started a relationship with a woman named Jamira Haynes in 2019. As for Daphne, well, the rumors about the alleged snap, crackle, pop still couldn't keep the ninjas away. In April 2021, she was spotted out with Diddy. 50 reposted the image on his Instagram along with the caption, "Nah, me and Puff fight over business shit. If he liked a girl, he liked a girl. I don't give a." Daphne would go on publicly to express her admiration for Diddy by reposting one of his shirtless photos. While looking through Daphne's Instagram account, we noticed that not only is Diddy following her, but Joy Chavis is following her too. And Daphne is following them back. In case you're unaware, Joy and Diddy were spotted swapping spit on a yacht back in September 2021. That means Daphne was hanging out with him before Joy played tonsil hockey with him. What in the sister wives is going on here? Although 50 appeared to be unbothered by Daphne's new romance, in September 2022, he turned the pettiness up a notch. After Daphne posted a photo of herself enjoying Diddy's iHeartRadio Music Festival performance, 50 shared a picture of him and his son, along with the caption, "Oh, that's your mommy over there with Puffy, LOL. Remember what I told you the other day? These be crazy, SMH." At that point, Daphne had had enough. She commented on his post, "Please stop doing this to me. I never bother you, and I'm an outstanding mother to our son. Can we please just focus on that, please?" Diddy got sued by his ex-girlfriend Cassie in November 2023, and they settled the lawsuit 1 day later. Of course, 50 couldn't help but taunt Diddy over the matter. 50 also announced that he was creating a documentary about all of the allegations. Diddy was hit with more legal issues, including a $30 million lawsuit filed by his former producer, Rodney Jones. In court docs, Rodney claimed Daphne and Diddy's other girlfriend, Young Miami, were sex workers who were hired by Diddy. Rodney went on to say Diddy paid the woman a monthly fee to be a part of his harem. Without tagging Daphne, 50 captioned an Instagram photo, "I didn't know you was a sex worker, you little sex worker. LOL."
See, that's why I told you that's when he found out. So he been knowing.
Told Us Weekly that due to the
Lord, I I played this for was to let y'all know that he been knowing about her being a. I didn't know all this other stuff was going on.
Docs Rodney claimed Daphne and Diddy's other girlfriend, Young Miami, were sex workers who were hired by Diddy. Rodney went on to say Diddy paid the woman a monthly fee to be a part of his harem. Without tagging Daphne, 50 captioned an Instagram photo, "I didn't know you was a sex worker, you little sex worker. LOL." On March 28, 2024, a source close to 50 told Us Weekly that due to the allegations about Daphne's involvement with Diddy, 50 was going to ask a court for sole custody of their son. Sit your black ass down. Daphne took to her Instagram to deny all of Rodney's allegations. And then in a separate post, she aired 50 out. She accused 50 of only seeing their son 10 times in 2 years before launching into allegations that 50 forcefully took advantage of her. She added that he had damaged the last hope she had for him as a father to preserve their family. She added, "You have broken our hearts for the last and final time." Now, keep in mind, sources have reported that she made these allegations against 50 after he made it known he was going to ask for full custody of their son. 50 didn't directly respond to the allegations against him. Instead, he posted a photo of Diddy and Daphne on his Instagram and wrote, "You moved a mile away in hopes of having another baby with me, but I was busy. So you moved back, and then you started receiving money from Brother Love. Now here we are, little
Wait, what?
This man, here, big ass Diddy and Daphne on his Instagram and wrote, "You moved a mile away in hopes of having another baby with me, but I was busy. So you moved back, and then you started receiving money from Brother Love. Now here we are, little sex worker." This man, here, big ass baby, man, he gonna cry in the car. His ass should have stayed with Vivica Fox. Hell, she had all that profit from her wig collection. Okay, she grown, she a woman of a particular age. She don't do drama or mess. She would have reeled his ass on in. Could have been somewhere eating crumpets and drinking tea, hell, with their pinky finger up. Do y'all think 50 will win full custody? Or will Daphne use their past domestic issue and his alleged detachment from their son against him in a court of law? Let us know down below. And thanks for watching this hot, stinking...
Okay, y'all didn't get my likes up, so I am about to holler at y'all later. Peace out. Peace out. How am I going to exit? How am I going to exit? Let's see how I'm going to exit. I love this guy. He is so funny to me. What does it say? I don't need to play that. Hold on.
And Jane, as Diddy's former girlfriends, what they really were his live-in S-workers. Jane testified that Diddy flew Paul to one of their Turks and Caicos vacations.
Y'all ain't right by they ain't right by me. Can't lie.
She could not continue, and she asked to stop.
It don't matter how much tea I bring them. They wanna play me to the left.
To SD. She runs out of the room, and he runs after her, and he says, "How could you make me look like that in front of Paul?"
How he exposed?
Said Jane owed Paul an apology. How little does he think of Jane that she has to apologize to
the
when she is
I called him Peter.
Not ready for the millionth time to have a freak off. Because she's not a girlfriend. He does not care about her at all. She to him
I agree.
is the live-in S-worker. And if the live-in S-worker is not ready to go, what are we doing? After he told her that she owed Paul an apology, they slept in separate beds. But she did message Paul.
At Sweet Bee Organics, we believe in the power of nature's ingredients to nurture your body and soul. Unlike conventional products filled with
Yeah, so she had to apologize to
We're talking
the.
literal evidence collected during the federal raids. Photos and videos of alleged abuse, text message exchanges, and of course,
Yeah, this is the last
bombshell
one.
testimony. We're sitting down with Johnny Depp's attorney to break down the most damning pieces of evidence against P. Diddy. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. Believe it or not, we're nearly to the midway point in the P. Diddy federal trial. We've seen a lot of evidence from the government during all of this, and to be honest, some of it isn't looking too good for P. Diddy. He's actually known by a lot of different names. Recently, we've been hearing a lot of witnesses call him Puff or Puff Daddy. He's known as Diddy, P. Diddy, Love, but legally, he's Sean Combs. And he's actually kind of in some legal trouble too. Namely, 5 federal charges, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's pleaded not guilty to all of these charges. Right now, we're in the government's case in chief, and so far we've seen a lot of evidence. So let's dig into some of the most damning evidence that jurors have seen so far. And it's only right to begin a P. Diddy story talking about evidence, of course, by talking about baby oil and lube. Because you'll recall, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube were collected during federal raids of Diddy's homes, and some sex toys were collected too. Jurors have actually seen the photos. You can see from the photos yourself, there's a decent amount of these items. Now, Cassie testified about all of this, and this is the government. Q means the government, A is Cassie. The government says, you mentioned baby oil. What brand of baby oil was used? Johnson's baby oil. How was the baby oil used during the freak-off? It was just as important as everything else, as being there. We used it quite a bit. Where was it? Where was the baby oil placed? We poured it all over our bodies. Had to be glistening. Yeah. Which participants in the freak-off, if any, used the baby oil? Everyone. Would that include you? Yes. Other witness testimony has corroborated all of this. For instance, a male dancer escort, a man by the name of Sheree Hayes, who, if you don't recall that name, you might recall his little moniker, the Punisher. He testified about it too. Here's what he said. She, meaning Cassie, explained to me that her and her husband like to create a sexy scene that consisted of me and her mutually applying baby oil, applying it to ourselves, and
I would never look at baby oil the
and try to
same.
create a sexy environment that her husband would eventually come out to watch. The government asked, across all these encounters, you mentioned you would use baby oil. Is that right? Yes. And how much? A considerable amount. It was preferred to keep our bodies, I guess, covered for, I guess, the look of it, to shine, or whatever was the preference. Cassie testified that these freak-offs happened.
Wait a minute, Cassie
The government asked,
reacts to P. Diddy's trial evidence. Okay.
after they started,
This is Johnny Depp's attorney
and they kind of lasted
reacting to the
Cassie's
evidence.
transcript again. How much time out of your week did freak-offs take? It would depend on how long they were. They ranged anywhere from 36, 48 to 72 hours. I feel like the longest one ever was 4 days, maybe even more, like on and off with breaks. So it was a significant part of the week. And the oil was kind of messy. Back to Kathy's transcripts. After a freak-off, can you describe the condition of the room where the freak-off was held? The room was usually pretty bad off. There was oil all over the walls, the door handles, the bed, the sheets. We often would get to the room. I would need to call.
Okay, no, this is not the one I'm gonna end on. I'm sorry.
Like that to try to mitigate those
I'm
problems.
trying to end on a good one. That one ain't it. Let's try this one.
A woman named Jane continued her testimony on direct in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs today. And she testified to very, very graphic sexual activity in what Cassie Ventura called freak-offs and this woman calls hotel nights. But despite these graphic details, is this something that is going to move this jury towards a guilty verdict? I'm criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari, and here on Serving Justice, we look at what matters most in a criminal trial, the defense, of course. I want to bring in Sophia Sami Ali,
Oh, so she about the
who's
defense.
been on this case from the beginning, as well as News Nation field producer Gentrick Shanga, who has been at the Manhattan courthouse. So, ladies, thanks for joining
So that
me.
means I'm not
Let's
going to
start
agree with none of what she say,
Sophia.
probably.
The prosecution is clearly trying to align Jane Doe's testimony with Cassie's from earlier in the trial. Are they lining up? What's going on here? Because there's obviously very obvious parallels in the testimony.
I mean, I would say it's like eerily similar in terms of what Jane describes as hotel nights and what Cassie Ventura described as freak-offs. Like, very, very similar. We've got the patterns. We've got multiple partners. These events are involving multiple partners. They're involving male escorts. They're involving a high amount of drugs that are taken, different kinds of drugs. These are being recorded. The freak-offs are recorded. The hotel nights are also recorded. You've got, they go for days at a time. Cassie Ventura talked about how it would be days at a time, and sometimes she needed an IV to recover. Jane Doe talked about the same thing. She needed days to recover because it would go on and on and on. So yes, there's definitely a pattern. There's definitely similarities. The only thing differences for until now that I see is that there's no blackmail. We haven't heard about Jane Doe being blackmailed the way Cassie Ventura was with those recordings. And then also,
Yes, she was when she said that she had. Oh, maybe she didn't know about the
And abused. And that's very
3
important.
months.
That's very important because when Jane Doe is testifying about, I feared that essentially my man would leave me and I wouldn't have my rent money, right? That fear is misplaced because there's one thing to fear losing your guy because you're not pleasing him the way he likes to be pleased. There's another thing where, you know, you're fearing violence. That's a huge difference right there. And you know what else I see as a common denominator in these two testimonies from a defense perspective?
I guess we're ahead of
In
them.
it for something that they didn't get. Cassie Ventura wanted a career. This woman was being supported. And that's also very important. And I think that unlike Cassie Ventura's testimony, which was handled with care, I think, and I would
Lady,
assume
you
that there
had
was
something
more
negative to say about
across Jane
Cassie
Doe,
as
and
well.
It's gonna get brutal, like it has been with some of the other women. Gentrix, you were there. As we hear Jane Doe's claims about these hotel nights or freak-offs, what is the mood inside the courtroom? Are the jurors reacting at all? What is the overall sense that you get?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I answer that, I do kind of want to speak a little bit to the abuse that you guys are talking about, because the prosecution kind of alluded to something that Jane calls the worst day of my life in their opening statements, in which she talks about confronting Combs about seeing other women. This is what a lot of her testimony is about today, just being jealous that he was showing so much more attention, so much more what looked like more romantic and love and quality time with other women. And so they said in their opening statements that she confronted him about it. He got enraged and she got scared. She went to go run and hide in the bathroom. He kicked it open, ended up dragging her out, lifting her by her neck, and, you know, kicking her on the ground. That is what we've been anticipating to hear all week. And surprisingly, we didn't hear it in these past 2 days, but maybe on Monday we will. And so back to how the courtroom was today. For half of the day, before lunchtime, Jane was very emotional. She was sobbing, you know, recounting how much she loved Combs, how much, you know, she just wanted to make him happy by doing this. She was love bombed. And then it almost feels like everything turned on its head. And now she's like, what's going on? So, and you know, when she's talking about having intercourse with multiple men at a time, the jury's really, you know, at times, people are furrowing their head. When the prosecution showed dozens of images of her during hotel nights with other with men, like I think about like 4 or 5 of them, there was a woman who was just kind of like rubbing her temple. I think I read somewhere that the New York Times said that she was closing her eyes, but from my point of view, she was kind of rubbing her temple, you know, really like looking at the image down at the monitor in front of her. There was a juror who was like really crossing her arms. There was a moment where we were all just kind of like, whoa. But then as we kept reading these messages in the second half of the day, people are kind of getting a bit antsy, kind of like, okay, we've been hearing kind of the same thing over and over again of this is what I want, but this is not what you're giving me, and you're being dismissive and all of this. So really it was kind of like it you know, when you see her sobbing and just so sad for the love that she wanted and didn't get from Combs, you could see people really, it was kind of a hushed tone in the courtroom. But then, as AUSA Comey continues to read message after message, we're like, all right, well, let's get to it. I think we kind of understand what you mean by now.
I mean, it's more of the same. It's more of the same. And let me say this. Well, two things. Number one, I'm a criminal defense attorney, but as I always say, we are kind of a different breed among lawyers. We wear multiple hats. We also become somewhat, very much knowledgeable about psychology and dynamics and relationships just because of what we deal with our clients. And so, I just see this buyer's remorse. I hate to say it, but these women wanted to be number one. Instead, they were used for very specific types of lifestyle and sex. And there's regret there. There's shame there for what they did to police Combs.
No.
I mean, that
That's
can't
not.
be denied.
They
And I think
wanted
the
to
defense is
have
gonna go hard on
that
this.
freaky
The other
shit
thing I
with
was gonna also
him,
say is,
not
I
10,
am
11
wondering, when
different
you're
guys.
seeing
That's
metrics,
totally
more the same.
different.
It's
Stop
all
that,
right,
girl,
okay,
lady.
we get it. We get the freak offs. We get the baby oil. We get all this.
Stop
And
that.
even the abuse, right? It's a pattern with him with women. Where is the enterprise, right? Where is this structure? Where is this mob-like enterprise that's criminal? And I'm thinking if they adhere to the theory of primacy and recency, which is what most trial lawyers do, they put their best witness first and last. And so we had Cassie almost towards the beginning of the trial, and I'm wondering if they're going to close with some sort of bombshell criminal enterprise evidence. I'm wondering where D-Rock is, and I'm wondering where Christina Coram is. Those are the two individuals that are seeming to me like the members of the criminal enterprise. He was the one that was reaching out to these women after Sean Combs got raided. I'm talking about D-Rock. Christina Coram was the one that was sort of telling Jane Doe, excuse me, Christina Coram was telling Jane Doe, you can take the drugs to Miami, don't worry, it's safe. They very much were Diddy's right-hand people and very involved in, what these women were doing and these freak-offs and all that, more than just those assistants who were cleaning up the hotel rooms and setting up baby oil and stuff. So I'm wondering if these two individuals have pled and are cooperating, or are they witnesses for the defense? They're not going to be called by the prosecution, but the prosecution still has a big hole in its case, which is this criminal enterprise. There's definitely not proof beyond a reasonable doubt that this was a criminal enterprise for the purpose of the sexual gratification of Diddy. Now, Sophia, I mentioned my opinion about how I think her cross is going to go at some point next week. What do you think? Do you think that she's going to be coddled and handled with care? Or do you think that Westmoreland or someone else from that team, maybe Brian Steele, is just going to go for the jugular?
I agree with you. I think they're going to go for the jugular. I think in terms of witnesses, Cassie Ventura was probably a more sympathetic witness. She had the abuse. She had her career, everything. This one, I think they're going to go hard. I think they're going to go just as hard as they did with the other witnesses. They're going to, just like you said, they're going to paint her as an opportunist. They're going to talk about this love contract. They're going to talk about how he paid her bills. And still, we found out that he still, to this day, pays for her rent, which was just, I was very surprised to hear that. And that she had an opportunity. She didn't really explain why she said no. They were like, well, why did you do it? And she just said, well, I wanted to please him. So it didn't seem like there was a lot of compulsion there.
Right.
And so, I think we're going to go hard.
Yeah, you want to please your man no matter how freaky his freaky lifestyle is. That's your choice. That's not coercion. It's the antithesis to coercion. And like I said the other day, I don't think Gentrix was with us, but when I was growing up, my mama taught me there is no such thing as a free lunch. You're getting your rent paid. You're deeply in love with this guy. You want to please him. You want to do this freak off thing or hotel night thing so that you can, at the end, maybe cuddle with him. I mean, it sounds pathetic that any woman would do that, but there are women who do that. And now you're saying that you're coerced? Like, that just doesn't add up.
I do have to add, though, Sarah, there's two things that I think go with her, is that she said that she was given a lot of drugs. She was not addicted to drugs.
Absolutely.
Diddy. and that
But didn't
she
she
given
say?
drugs to numb all.
No, ma'am.
Didn't she say she chose to take the drugs because she hated
did.
what she had to do? Okay, again, that's her
did.
choice to numb herself.
But it was he kept. I mean, it seemed like there was an addiction that happened. That he kept giving it to her. She took it. Yes, she did. It wasn't like it was forced upon her, but she's.
There was
developed
times it
addiction.
was
And then
forced.
also, he told her she shouldn't work as much. He told her, "I pay your rent." He kind of started exerting a financial control over her. He started having this financial control, and I think we talked about this a little bit. Once you're in that, it's really hard to come out of it. And so I think she thought, I have to keep doing this, otherwise me and my child will be kicked out on the street, you know?
Right, you have a point that there's financial control. With Cassie, it was more physical control, but nonetheless, it's control. But again, I think there's a huge defense theme here of opportunism, of money grabbing, of signing up for this lifestyle in exchange for what it came with, essentially, with the territory of being around Diddy. And I think that's a problem when you're dealing with proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But, you know, as I've said, this trial is the true litmus test of the Me Too movement. Are we that far into this movement that, you know, we're going to look past actual consent and into this dynamics of this relationship? I mean, because this would be one crazy thing if in terms of the Me Too dynamic, if Diddy got convicted, you know what I mean? And I remember talking about Me Too and adding the N in there, so it's Men Too, back in 2017, saying, you know, what is Me Too doing for the women who are true victims of assault and abuse, but the perpetrators are the average Joe, who are not rich and famous and you know, P. Diddy or Weinstein or these kinds of people. What is it doing for them? Zero. Because there's money and opportunity involved when it comes to these types of men. And so far, the pendulum has swung and has swooped up a lot of men of different sort of culpability across the board. But this one is really a stretch for me. And I wonder where we are. It's a true test, I think, of, you know, where we are as a society in this movement. Gentrix,
Who said baby all was an enemy?
Fill up on karma.
You make that up.
And
where we are as a society in this movement. Gentrix, there were copies of text messages between Combs and then I guess Combs and Jane, and then Jane and Cassie. What was that about?
So, the text messages, Elisa, they went through today were, a lot of them were mainly between Jane and Combs. Her talking about how she was very jealous of, you know, the attention he was showing these other women, as well as saying, I do not want to do these hotel nights. I do not.
Oh, and he said, "Girl, stop."
and this is where we're getting to what you said, Sarah, about this is a transaction. That literally, Combs said that in these text messages. He said, "I'm doing my job. I need you to do your job." And when the prosecution asked what Combs meant by that, she meant, I need to do my job, which is making him happy, as well as, you know, making him comfortable, but also these hotel nights. So in a way, that is her job. I would love to get your perspective on this, but you know, she says many times, I felt obligated. I felt like this was my task. This was my duty.
They had a
She
contract.
read a note, that she put onto her notes app, right? Where she's talking about she no longer wants to do that. So where is that in this whole idea of
He has a contract with her, lady.
you know, agreeing to go
That's a
along with it.
business.
And so,
Right, but when did she ever unequivocally say to Combs, I do not want to do these nights with you anymore, and I don't care if you're not going to pay my way? I don't.
She don't have to say, I don't care if you don't pay my way.
She didn't say that.
She
I
said,
don't want to do these, and I don't care if you don't pay.
she did say, I don't want to do these anymore.
Like, you know, this is not something I enjoy. And I think that, I know that it looks like it's transactional. However, I do think those text messages that show that she was jealous, that shows that she wanted a relationship, that shows that she wanted time and attention, show that this wasn't just like a transaction where I pay for your house and you put on these hotel nights for us. I think for her, there was emotion. She was attached to him. She was expecting a relationship. And so for her, I think she was trying to build a life with him.
But you're describing what most women are like, right? Men are very basic, you know, they're very transactional. They can be. Women, no matter how much they might think they can sign up for a transactional relationship, there's feelings of all kinds of layers of emotions and all kinds of things. And this is where I also think I really want to hear from the defense expert, the psychologist, the abuse expert for the defense, because we're going to use the prosecution.
Okay, let me say this. It's contractual because he said they have a contract. That means that they have an agreement. You do this right here, and I will pay your rent. That's a business. That's a business. That's a transaction. And since that's a business, it falls up under his enterprise. Okay, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Peace.